And hello and welcome everyone to the Comic Multiverse where the worlds of nerd meet. And as you can see, we're shiny now. We've been given a shiny upgrade. I believe the kids on the Twitter sphere call this a glow up, Matt. We've been glown up.
We have. I just decided on a whim just to redesign everything.
It looks real. I get that too a lot, honestly, when I'm doing stuff. Just be like, hey, I want to redo these thumbnails now, and you feel good about it because it's the thing
Hmm.
of like, oh, I'm working, but it's like I'm also putting off other work to do this.
Yep. Yep.
It's a wonderful feeling. So thank you everyone for coming to join us on this Sunday night. We've got at least 21 people in the chat already. As I look here to the side, we got all the Warriors. We got KT and Michelis and Tevya and everyone else there. Jersey Luck, of course. Yeah, I knew he was there. So and Lude Skeletor is there too. We got everybody.
All the usuals are here.
All the usuals here for what I'm sure will be a hell of a show. Well, I know it's going to be a hell of a show because, as I said on Twitter a couple days ago, you're actually going to get a double length show. You're going to get the comic multiverse as you know it, and also stick around because I have an interview with Ashley Victoria Robinson, who everyone, of course, remembers from the former DC All Access, has written a bunch of books recently. We talked about airports. We talked about her new comic Kickstarter and becoming an American citizen. And in fact, in the time it took to do the interview to doing this show, the book she was promoting got funded. So there you go. But
That's
it's still a
great.
fun interview.
That's
But it's
great.
still a fun interview, and you're gonna like it. How have you been, Matt? How's your week been?
Pretty good. Pretty good. It's been really, really damn hot here. So I've just been
Hasn't.
leaving the aircon on like 24/7, trying to do all my reviews, which I actually managed to finish like all of them. Like I've never been this ahead before to the point where I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to use to fill this gap?
Yeah, it was a reasonably sized week this week for comics. Anything in particular you read this week that you like? I figure let's change up the format with the new thing. Let's talk about books we liked at the top of the show before we get to the news.
Ooh,
Ooh.
well, let's see. What did I like? I liked Batman 87. It was 87, wasn't it?
Or oh yeah, it was 87. Yeah, the second Tynan book going into some interesting directions for Batman. I would agree. I think Tynan is doing a good job showing that his Batman is different.
Yeah, yeah. I enjoy uh all the action in it. I enjoy like we get to see this new prison that Batman has built
Mm.
that it immediately gets like broken into.
Immediately, I had a good laugh there where I'm like, oh, that's fun. Batman is admitting that Arkham and Blackgate don't do their jobs worth shit and that he should maybe build something new. Oh, what's that? They broke out on the first day? Wow. Maybe you just don't give criminals enough credit. We also got to see some kind of interesting new redesigns for both the Riddler and the Penguin.
The Riddler who now looks exactly like a question mark, which I thought was pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I didn't catch that until you told me, and I'm like, oh, holy shit, he is, because he's been staying up for days, mainlining military grade methamphetamines.
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed they didn't follow suit with him from that
Yeah,
year of the villain. They do mention it, which
which
is
is
really weird because
nice.
they mentioned like him walking away from a life of crime. Where I took that book as more he's walking away from the Riddler persona. He was getting sick of the whole Riddler sort of thing,
Mm,
and he was still going to do crime, but just in a different way. And I guess he is still as well,
kind of.
but he still is the Riddler. But yeah, he's really cool.
Yeah. It was interesting. Penguin, who actually seems to be more plugged into this story than he has
Hmm.
been any other Batman story that I can think of.
Yeah, he's cleaning house.
Yeah, exactly. He's getting in there. He's playing hard in the paint. Also, thank you everyone for hosting the stream there. I just saw those come across there.
Yeah.
Always appreciated. Again, anything you can do for the show while we're live, never expected, always appreciated. Be it hosting, be it be dropping some bits, be it be giving a donation, which Matt and I split totally halfsies. Don't be giving us odd number donations, or we'll have to fight over it. Man, that'd be some shit. Some guy comes in, spends an odd numbered amount of money, knowing we'll fight over it. But yeah, the Batman book is cool. I'm digging it. It's it's a I appreciate that it's a Batman who's really interested in solving mysteries and using his
Hmm.
brain, which we haven't really gotten.
Yeah, yeah. It kind of goes well with Tomasi's detective comics, which you also had this week, which is very
Yes,
Batman as a detective, solving crimes, even like supernatural crimes that still have that sort of realism in it, whereas in this one where he stops that cult, we get like monsters, but then you find out like the leader was doing it just for fucking tax purposes.
Just for money, like all great cult leaders. What is it? He started as one thing, then started buying his own hype. I loved that story too, because I'm a huge like lover and knower of pagan lore and history, and it's like, oh yeah, they're Vikings and they worship the sun. Oh, thank you, Necromansour. Thank you for following.
Yeah.
Which, it's one of those weird times where reading the book where I was actually like totally ahead of the story, where it's like, oh yeah, these Vikings, they celebrate Yule. Yule is the progenitor to Christmas and everything. So they're going on a Christmas crime spree. How fun is that?
Yeah, it was really cool. And it was cool as well as like continuing that whole like, it's supernatural, but there's still that element of realism where like that giant Norse guy who we all thought was like actual like a Viking villain is just like some guy that was brainwashed and drugged into thinking he was.
They gave him literal berserker drugs to make him go crazy, which I really appreciated. That Tomasi also finds a fun way to deal with a problem that I imagine a lot of Batman stories are going to have to deal with going forward, and that is there's no Alfred now, so who the fuck is Batman going to talk to without looking like a crazy person?
Yeah, and the answer is like his audio logs, and when he doesn't have them, is Lucius.
Yeah, you got to think, without Lucius, this may be one like the loneliest Batman has ever been, because Damian's not really in his life anymore. Dick still thinks he's Rick Grayson, so no one's coming by the house anymore for Sunday dinner. Alfred's dead.
Yeah, he's very much alone, and hopefully they deal with a story like I was kind of thinking they were going to do this because this was like a Christmas story, and it's like usually Christmas is about family and whatnot, and here we have Bruce more or less alone.
Yeah. I have no idea what Batgirl is doing over in her book at the moment. It's been so long since I've checked out that book, mainly because they can't keep a consistent writer to save their life. They keep changing it up.
Yeah, I have no idea what she's doing either.
Yeah, well. So there's some early comic talk, everyone, at the top of the show, just to blow your mind and just to say you didn't get any. We do actually have some news. In fact, we have quite a lot of news, actually. It was a pretty eventful week, all things considered.
It was, yeah.
I guess starting things off on the app side of things, is Disney Star Wars Obi Wan Kenobi on hold, maybe even indefinite hold? I've been hearing conflicting things about this all week.
Yeah, I've been hearing things that say like, oh, it's on hold until the summer, yet it was filming in the summer to begin with. So
yeah,
like if it's on hold, then it can't be on hold for very long, like mere weeks, days even.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very strange, and at first I didn't think much of them, but then like Dateline Hollywood and all that sort of Hollywood Reporter
picked
all
up
those
on
people
it. Yeah,
started picking up on it. But yeah, it was very strange that they kept saying that it's on hold until the summer when it's filming in the summer.
I heard some stuff too from people who sounded like they at least knew someone close to the production, and the way they kind of made it sound was like, yes, it's on hold, but it's not as bad as you think. It's for something that's actually kind of silly.
Yeah, I'd imagine if it would be something like that. And yeah, you get like the usual people that saying, oh, it's because Kathleen Kennedy stole the scripts and
yeah, naturally
he's getting Rian Johnson to rewrite them and all that bullshit.
Oh yeah, because of course a day can't go by without Star Wars conspiracy theories, because Star Wars conspiracy theory YouTubers need to eat and tell us the 5 reasons why Kathleen Kennedy is a lizard person from the future who has come back in time.
Yeah, to ruin Star Wars.
As all part of a big plan to prepare us for the reverse vampires and the Chum Group. It's all there, people. Or should I say sheeple? Follow the money, maybe. It's all here in Star Wars. Honestly, again, if it is delayed, I hope it's because, they are trying to fine-tune it and try and make it better. Although, hilariously, you get people like that, too, who are like, oh, that last set of Star Wars movies failed because they went in without a plan and they rushed ahead. Okay, well, we're going to wait a while with Obi-Wan. How dare you wait with Obi-Wan? I want it now.
Yeah, it's like, oh, wow. So, like, you people who've been, lamenting that they need a plan, and when they say we're stopping to come up with a plan, you still get mad. Yeah, it's so strange. But yeah, I've heard that maybe what's his name, Dave Filoni might be involved as well.
I hope so.
Whether he be writing or maybe even directing an episode or just overseeing it, that'd be pretty cool, especially since when the show would take place, since it'd be right between like that Rebels time, so you'd have a good handle on those characters at that point.
I'd like that a lot. Actually, speaking of another story that we were going to talk about, I put it later in the list, but fuck it, let's talk about it now because we're on a Star Wars kick anyway. The Star Wars Clone Wars season finale trailer, or the new season trailer. I guess it's the finale because it's the last one. Until maybe they do another one. I don't fucking know. I didn't think they'd do this one, but apparently they're like, hey, Clone Wars, guess what? We have more. I remember when they first dropped this news at like Star Wars Celebration a couple of years back, I had a moment of like, really, more Clone Wars? Didn't you guys kind of get that story out all the way in one go? But then I saw this trailer and I'm like, okay, you won me over. I kind of want to see what else you got to show me.
Yeah, I am re-engaged. Yeah, no, I liked the ending when we got those like Netflix that Netflix season 6. I liked the ending where it did that, and I like that we got to see like the animatics of like some arcs and everything, and this looks like it's going to be telling like the more important arcs that probably should have been told in season 6, which is like Siege of Mandalore, wrapping up like Ahsoka stuff for now until we see her in Rebels.
Geez, the Siege of Mandalore. It's almost like Mandalore became really important or something in the last little bit.
Again, Dave Filoni, he's involved in these two. He loves these Mandalorians.
Worlds within worlds, man. It all connects. This one also looks to be much more of a heavy Ahsoka and Rex-centric story, which makes sense because as we see in Rebels, they make it and continue to have adventures.
It also makes sense as well because, as other people were quick to point out, and if you know your Star Wars lore, most of this arc actually takes place at the beginning of episode 3. So there's going to be overlap, and there already is in the trailer. We see overlap with certain scenes from episode 3.
Pregnant Padme.
Yeah, them referencing direct lines from that movie. So yeah, there's going to be obviously whole arcs where maybe Anakin and Obi Wan aren't there. Like I know they're not there for the Siege of Mandalore because they're busy rescuing Palpatine from Grievous. So
which is fine by me. We've had enough enough Obi-Wan and enough Anakin. Let's give some other characters some time to play because it really is their show.
Yeah, it is.
Some other people pointed out some interesting stuff. Darth Maul is back again because he was one of the foremost villains there in the show at that point. And he's back to using the double-sided red lightsaber, but as people were quick to point out, oh, he actually took a piece of his old one and a piece of his new one and actually put them together. And I'm like, that is an insane attention to detail.
Oh, yeah, this is Dave Filoni. He's not, no slack in those detail things. And it's even better because the mocap for this is Ray Park.
Yes, which that blew my mind, too, where I'm like, man, I don't think you can find a better example of a character who got saved in canon than Darth Maul.
Yeah, they made him interesting.
They really, really did. And again, I'm like, am I actually getting excited to see more Darth Maul? I'm getting more excited to see Darth Maul in something. But yeah, so I mean, definitely this is going to be interesting. And hey, it's going to be Disney Plus, so get ready for that. Another reason to get the app if you don't have it.
Yeah.
Now, are they releasing this all at once, or are they going to do this weekly like they're doing all the other shows?
I'd imagine it'd be weekly.
All right, fair enough.
It's weekly. I think they've made it weekly so that I think the final episode comes out on May 4th.
That's fitting.
Yeah.
That's fitting. I like that. So yeah, Clone Wars final season. I'm excited for it. Go back and do more Rebels after this, please.
Well, apparently we're getting a Rebels sequel in 2021.
Ooh, do tell. Explain more of this, because I've said
just rumors at the moment, but it kind of makes sense since Resistance ended yesterday.
Yes, it did.
We've got this show coming, and then that show will end, and then they haven't announced any new animated project after that.
No, they have not.
So I imagine that'll be coming up soon because there's so many leftover plot threads from Rebels.
Very, yeah. I've said before, and I'll say it again, Rebels is probably my favorite thing of the modern Disney era of Star Wars, so I'm very excited to see them potentially go back and do a little more of it, because, yeah, they definitely leave it open for another sequel where Ezra is gone and missing and everything, and they're going to, mount a rescue mission in uncharted space.
Yeah, well, not only that, the show then, remember, also leaps forward to after Return of the Jedi, where we see Hera and her son, who she had with Kanan.
That's right.
We see Ahsoka and Sabine going off into the unknown regions to look for Ezra.
Like, that's a show. You can't tell me that's not a show there.
Yeah.
Also, too, now that we especially know that somewhere out in the unchartedness of space, Palpatine is alive again.
Somehow he survived.
Which you can't tell me at some point Ezra didn't meet Palpatine in the flesh, and it's just like, hey man, what's up?
I actually like that, since obviously he met him in Rebels as like the weird Force ghost as Chancellor Palpatine thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be cool to.
Which I actually loved how.
Yeah.
I loved how they handled that, actually. Yeah, that he met Palpatine, didn't put together the Emperor thing, and he only met him through weird visions.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a fun thing to do if they want to. Then also just to see the characters grow up too. I want to see what adult Ezra looks like.
Yeah, adult Ezra, Hera's kid, older Sabine, especially since we've learned like what happens with the Darksaber and everything.
Yeah, and it's new. That's the other thing too. It's like these are new characters in uncharted space in Star Wars, not connected to any of the movies or any of the other stuff. It's allowed to be new.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's your Star Wars talk. Do we have anything else Star Wars related to talk about, Matt, now that we're on a big Star Wars kick? Has anything else happened in the world of the wars that we need to mention?
I don't think so. No.
No, I think we got it all. All right, then. So what else for news there? Again, keeping with the app news as we are, it was made official this week that Marvel has canceled Hulu's Howard the Duck and the TIGRA and DAZZLER shows.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I know. I think we all kind of felt this one was coming, what with Kevin Feige taking over the television arm of thing and consolidating his power in the Outer Rim.
They actually announced that it's called now like Marvel TV Studios or something.
Yeah. It's got like a more official name. It's funny, these shows are dead, which I'm going to assume the Hit Monkey show is dead too, but the MODOK show seems to live on, if only through the merit of the fact that it looks to be further along in production than these other shows. And also they've cast MODOK and cast a bunch of people for the MODOK show. And they got a really good cast too. Patton Oswalt is going to be MODOK.
That's perfect.
That is perfect. I'm like, I love this already. And the way they were kind of pitching it too, it's like, it's a MODOK family comedy, him trying to like balance life and supervillainy and everything. I'm like, man, if that Harley Quinn show is any indication, you can actually do a lot with very little in that regard and have it be very funny and very cool.
Yeah. I'm actually looking forward to that. Hopefully it doesn't get canceled.
Yeah, I know, right? It really shouldn't this far along, because they announced the MODOK stuff, and then they announced this just a couple days later.
Yeah, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do now, like whether they continue doing like animation stuff, because obviously we've got like the MODOK show if it doesn't get cancelled, and What If for the Disney Plus. So it'll be interesting to see if they do more What Ifs after this, I guess, first season is finished. Or whether
they really should.
New.
If we've said it once, we've said it a million times, and that is, come on, guys, you're freaking Marvel, Disney. Animation is your bread and butter. You're not going to make movies out of all of these characters. Why? Why can't you make a really good cartoon or really good animated movie out of some of them?
Yeah, Bob Iger didn't buy Pixar for nothing.
Apparently not, yeah. Devin the Great brings up a great point in the chat, saying, I wanted the Howard the Duck show. Kevin Smith would have done him justice. Yeah, that's funny that they axed the Howard the Duck thing with it, because, again, they had Kevin Smith attached to it, and Kevin Smith's star has been a little bit on the rise again after, rechristening himself as a pretty reliable director of television.
Yeah, well, he's still busy. He's got that Masters of the Universe show coming out soon.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Did I mention I finally did watch the Jay and Silent Bob reboot?
Oh yeah, what did you think of it?
It was fun. Again, it's certainly not his best movie. I think my favorite joke is him like straight up saying as himself, "Yeah, I almost died, and so then I guilt tripped all my famous friends to be in this new movie." And I'm like, "Yeah, that makes. How did you get all your famous friends back for this because of that?" And also the fact that we get to see Amy's kid and that it's Jason Mewes' real life daughter, but Kevin Smith's daughter is playing Jay the character's daughter, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
That they basically traded daughters for on screen. That was pretty funny. Or the fact that the cock knocker troopers are all colored like Deathstroke.
Yeah, I was thinking, oh, did like Arrow wasn't using the costumes anymore? Did they just like let him borrow them?
I mean, they let him borrow Supergirl for a little bit, so yeah.
Yeah. they
She's
let him
funny.
borrow Supergirl, Mon-El, and Brainiac.
She's pretty funny, Melissa Benoit. I hope that she has like a good post comedy career because she's actually quite versatile as an actress.
Yeah, she's pretty funny.
Yeah, I like that they got because she's so wholesome and everything else. She gets to smoke dope with Val Kilmer and play against type. And all I can think is like, hey, I want to smoke pot with Val Kilmer and play against type. Hey Val, tell me about Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Oh, speaking of movies I saw too, I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood this week too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it when I was watching it, although I definitely had a moment when I was done where I'm like, hey, wait a minute. Nothing really happened for 2 hours in that movie.
I think that's probably the point of it.
I think so too.
Like
Again,
Rick Dalton doesn't learn shit.
no, he really doesn't. The only good thing that happens to him is by sheer luck and happenstance, and they don't really answer any questions or any mysteries. I know a lot of people are making a big deal out of the Bruce Lee thing, how they're even implying that Bruce Lee could potentially lose a fight. But man, that actor does a goddamn pitch perfect Bruce Lee impression.
Yeah, he's really great in it, isn't he?
Man, can we like do like a new Bruce Lee biopic and have that guy be Bruce Lee in it? Because like it feels almost like going to waste to not have him do more.
I want to say he's played him before.
Right. Okay.
His name's Mike Moe. I'm sure he's done it before.
Because he's really fucking good. But yeah, so that's 2 movies I saw this week, and that's 2 shows that unfortunately got the axe.
Mm-hmm.
What else do we got going on here? Oh, again, more in the realm of television and comic books and apps where they all cross over. We're in the golden age of app television, Matt, or as I like to call it, the superhero app television arms race. It's a mouthful, I know. I'm going to need to shorten it up a little bit, but Garth Ennis is apparently reteaming with Derek Robinson, and they're coming back for another boys story, a special boys one-shot called The Boys Dear Becky. Becky, of course, making reference to Becky Butcher, Bill Butcher's wife, who is killed.
It's seemingly going to tell the story about her, or like maybe how she died and stuff like that.
Because despite the fact that, her death is a big motivating factor for Butcher in the comics, there's very little written about her because that's just kind of how The Boys is. It's a little underwritten, which I give endless credit to the show, which actually, hey, I actually caught up and finished the show this week. I was like 2 episodes from the end and finally finished it. And wouldn't you know, Butcher's wife does way more with the wife, and she plays a huge part by the end. And even in the interview they gave with Ennis when they asked him, like, oh, why more The Boys, why now? And he's like, oh, well, there's more interest now because of the show, and I feel like there's some stuff I could go back and change and probably make some money too, and also people actually like the changes the show made, so maybe I can go back and change some shit too.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he's doing.
I love Ennis for being honest, where he's just like, yeah, The Boys is popular now, and I would like to make some money. Mm-hmm. And also, they actually gave me some ideas that I want to try and put in my own thing. And I'm like, good on you for being honest, Ennis.
Yeah, it would be interesting as well, because we've obviously season 2 it's either been filmed or is in almost finished being filmed. It'd be interesting to see if like any of this story makes it in. Mm-hmm. Like, or like the season 2 storyline dictated this comic.
Yeah, I will be interested in that too, because again, The Boys, I'm not going to call it underwritten, but again, it feels like, he basically took one pass at this when he was really angry one time and he probably didn't think anyone would bother to adapt this all these years later. So I do appreciate him for going back and being like, all right, let's fill in some blanks here. Why don't we?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, he could have just left it as like this early 2000s edgy comic, which it absolutely was. But yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's good he's going back and actually adding some depth and detail to these characters now.
I'm really interested to see what 2020 Ennis is going to be. See, fucking Brian Michael Bendis has infected my mind with worms. I'm auto completing his name. I'm interested what modern day 2020 Ennis would be like going back to one of his old works. Which again, you read The Boys and it feels like he's just excising a lot of demons from his time in the comic book industry. And I would say one of the reasons I like Ennis so much and why I think Ennis keeps getting work is that unlike his contemporaries, Miller, he actually grows as a human being, and he also doesn't take himself near as seriously as those other two guys do. So he's not afraid to make fun of himself and admit when he's wrong and shit.
Yeah. I've seen interviews with him and everything, and he seems like a really nice dude.
Yeah, he's like, comics should be fun, guys.
Yeah.
And even though I think that comes from like getting such great accolades early on with Preacher in his career, where it's like, oh, this is an unfilmable classic. This is like, part of the comic tapestry and oeuvre now forever. It's beyond reproach. And it's like, yeah, I was just getting out some stuff from being a Catholic schoolboy, and there was a butt-faced man in it. And that's pretty cool. I'm glad you like it. But he never got like Alan Moore about it, like when people talk about like Killing Joke and Watchmen, and he's like, oh, it's all just bullshit, isn't it? I just crap out amazing works all the time because I'm Alan Moore.
Yeah, he doesn't get pretentious about it.
Yeah, I'm sure if Ennis heard that, he'd just be like, oh, piss off, you anchor. He's Irish, but he's not that kind of Irish. But yeah, so more Boys. That's interesting. I'll definitely have to check this one out. I wonder if my channel will give a shit about this if I cover it.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, can I cover this? Can I make this video for children?
Oh, yeah. That's the real problem. The Boys, fun for the whole family. So hey, moving on there from comic creators doing good to another comic creator making good and no doubt making a lot of money. Rick Remender, or is it Remember or Remender?
Remender. Yeah, I always get it confused as well.
There's an M in there, but for some reason, again, brainworms, it wants to autocomplete always to Rick Remember. I always remember Rick. How can you forget him? But yes, Rick Remender signed a 3-year deal with Sony, and they're going to be turning Fear Agent into a show, and it's already been picked up by Amazon, interestingly enough. I guess The Boys did so good, Amazon also wants to be in the outside-the-box superhero comic book adaptation business.
Hey, if they give them the budget they gave The Boys, I'm more than happy to. They seem to be very well accommodating to these comic book adaptations, and maybe again it might be like an Ennis thing where like this sparks Remender to like return to this and update it or something.
They definitely seem to be picking their properties pretty well. God damn, I would become fucking Dr. Seuss there for a second. Picking their properties pretty well. Rick Remember wrote unintentional tongue twisters over here. Yeah, I'll admittedly say that I don't know much about Fear Agent. I always saw it on the shelf, and I know people liked it. So maybe now is the time to get into it. Now that I know they're going to be turning it into a show.
When I was making the thumbnails for this, I was like looking it up. I'm like, hey, this looks really cool. It's like space adventures and weird aliens, and it's very like 1960s pulpy.
Yes, I can tell with the helmet designs. This looks like very like Flash Gordon or some shit.
Yeah, it looked really cool. It'd be something I'd love to cover, but I doubt it'd do well.
Well, again, wait for the show to come. There's another comic YouTuber out there. I forget his name, but he was definitely smart to be in the right place at the right time. When The Boys came out, he basically had like, hey, here's, covering of all the volumes. And he put it out at just the right time, and he rode the algorithm perfectly. I don't think anyone knew The Boys was actually going to become as popular as it did when it did, but that guy was in the right place at the right time, and I think he cleaned up pretty good on it.
Nice.
So, fuck you, colleague out there. I hate when other people in my business do well, man. No, I don't. That's good because that means we all do good and everything. Could you imagine that if I was just that much of a petty asshole? I hate it when other people in my line of work do good.
Hey, there's
I'm
people
a
like that out there.
Oh, they are. What is it? I become freaking whatchamacallit, Daniel Day-Lewis as the oil baron there. I hate most people. I drink your comic milkshake. I suck it all up. A bastard in a basket talking about Fear Agent. But yeah, we are at interesting times when it comes to these show adaptations. We got Fear Agent, we got The Boys. I'll include that Watchmen show in there too, and even something like Umbrella Academy. It's like all the traditional superheroes from Marvel and DC have already either been, bought up or have projects in development. So we're seeing more and more interesting indie stuff. Oh, Lock and Key. There you go.
Yep. Yeah, that's coming out very soon, isn't it?
It is shockingly soon. They just showed the trailer, and then it's like, hey, here it comes, everybody.
Which is really ironic because it spent like years in like development hell, going from like one studio to another, and then all of a sudden, it's made. It's coming out in 5 days.
It really is crazy, but I guess it speaks to the quality of it, where everyone knew it's like, no, there is something here. This will make money. This will do good. Also, hey, Joe Hill is actually Joe King, son of Stephen King, and Stephen King properties always do well. Yeah. So once people know about that connection, I'm sure this will do pretty well too.
Yeah.
Good on Joe too there for not taking his dad's name there for such a huge chunk of time.
Yeah, it shows he wants to strike out on his own, and Lock and Key is really damn good. So I'm excited for the show.
Here's a good question, and actually the chat has a good one there too. Is Valiant doing any TV shows? They had a web series for a bit, and I know there's that Bloodshot movie coming out
in the next movie of 2004.
Yeah, I know, right, man? Here's the fucked up thing. Again, I got to tour Valiant's offices like way back in the day, and they were talking about it even back then. Yeah. So they've been thinking about this, and this has been in development for a while. If you do like Valiant, though, keep your eyes peeled to the channel because you might actually be seeing some more Valiant stuff down the line, actually.
Yeah, I really want to cover some Valiant stuff like Exo, Man of War, and Bloodshot and all that. It's hard finding a place to like jump on these books.
It is, especially because they've been going on for so long. Here's a good question, Matt, before we move on to the next topic, because we've had like a nice little through line going of, outside the box comic books being turned into TV shows. What would you like to see turned into a TV show of all the different outsider comics you've read, all the more indie stuff, indie-licious?
There's so many good ones out there.
Here's the thing. I actually got 2 shows that spring to my mind right away, and they're shows that they already made pilots of, and the networks passed on them.
Okay.
One is Six Gun from Cullen Bunn.
Oh, yep.
Which I think in an era where Westerns are kind of coming back in a big bad way, and if frickin' Tarantino wants to make a couple episodes of Bounty Law and make that real, I think they should really jump on the Six Gun bandwagon, because you could make that show for fairly cheap, go out to Monument Valley, get some guns that do some crazy magic shit. I think that would be great. And also Scalped from Jason Aaron, which again, they almost made.
Yeah. I Scalped, I was really looking forward to. Shame it like got passed on, but yeah,
it was going to be on WGYN, which I think is a perfect example of why they couldn't, because that's like a really violent book that needs to be on a streaming service like an HBO Go or an Amazon or something. And also, I think another hurdle for that show was trying to find that many native actors.
Yeah. What would I kind of fell off of it because no one seemed to be interested in it, but I kept reading it, and that's Tommy Gun Wizards.
Yeah,
that'd make a really great show. And for some reason, they changed the book to Machine Gun Wizards on its like 3rd issue. I have no idea why. But yeah, no.
Did it go to the future? Does the Thompson Machine Gun company, were they going to sue? Is that like a brand name?
I have no idea. But speaking of, it did kind of go to the future. It was tied into like aliens and all that sort of stuff.
Didn't see that coming.
It was actually a really cool like sort of flip on its head of whole magic thing. And Prohibition and Al Capone is like a stooge for like evil sorcerers and stuff. And Yeah, and Elliot Ness is like prohibition's like it's not alcohol, it's magic, and he's like
Love
secretly
it.
using magic, and yeah, it was pretty damn good.
I'm about it. I'm about all of it. So there you go, everyone. There's a couple shows. In the comments section below, tell us what outside the box indie comic books you would like to see turned into television shows, because we're kind of in an era now where they could all happen, seemingly, because
Yeah,
nothing is too weird anymore.
anything can happen.
Anything can happen. All right, what other news do we got coming down here? Oh, hey, Wyatt Russell was captured in set photos wearing his U.S. agent costume for Falcon and Winter Soldier. And spoiler for those who may or may not have already saw it, although if you've been on Twitter, it's kind of hard not to see it.
Yeah, it looks fucking awesome.
It does look really cool. Again, he's clearly, masquerading as Captain America. Like, yep, I'm Steve, I'm Captain America, and I bet you next time we see him, it's going to be black.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is his suit that like is just meant to emulate Captain America.
Right, I'm the fake, I'm the phony, I'm the puppet. A lot of attention has been paid to the shield, though, where it's like, oh, but didn't Steve give Sam the shield at the end of the movie, and now he has a shield.
Yeah, I imagine the government come and take it off Sam
Very, very much like in the
because
comics.
he didn't sign the Sokovia Accords.
This
Ross
is
will be there to take it off of him.
this is government property made with government funds. You have to give it back to us now. Or, and here's another thing too, because he's the fake Captain America, it could very well be a fake shield, and that could be the big moment of outing him to the public, to be like, oh, I broke the shield. That's because it's not made of vibranium.
Yeah, that could definitely be another thing. Although it looks exactly like the one that Falcon got at the end of Endgame. It's got like these little dents in the white parts, which was a big thing because people were trying to point out that that's not the same shield that Cap left with and everything.
Right. There's a lot of interesting places you could go with that one, and I'm definitely excited to see what Falcon and Winter Soldier does with it. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, you can basically see the story there laying out in front of your eyes, where it's like, Sam tries to make a go of being Captain America. The government steps on in because he didn't sign the Sokovia Accords. And also because he's a black man, because also that, too.
Yeah, that'll play
freaks
into
out
it.
all the... That'll play into it. I wonder how I wonder how deep into that they'll actually get, because obviously a show like Luke Cage had no problem tackling racial issues in America and everything, but the Marvel movies, they've kind of gone there, but they've kind of like tiptoed around it. I wonder.
I imagine that it'd be in there somewhere because like US Agent is really kind of like he's really like right wing, like Captain America basically.
He's basically like racist Captain America for huge chunks. And admittedly, some writers have kind of tried to play with that a little bit, where it's like, yes, he's right-wing Captain America, but his heart is in the right place. He's just really dumb and just can't help but listen to authority, and so evil people keep pointing him in bad directions. But when Steve comes around, it's like, hey, John, stop being a dick. He stops being a dick when Captain America tells him to. Again, for all the crap he gets, Nick Spencer did a really good version of him in his run. Also, too, he's getting a bit of a push right now, U.S. Agent, because he's going to be, what is it, in that new ForceWorks book.
Yeah. It's probably a bit of synergy here with the show, because he's gonna be a big hot commodity come August when the show comes out.
Yeah, for sure. And also, too, the old U.S. Agent stories, like in the go-between for when he was Cap and when Steve came back and everything, those are still pretty solid stories.
Yeah.
So, hopefully those ones get some more play and people read some more of them. Because I always thought that, that U.S. Agent was a bit of an untapped resource in the Marvel universe, because it's like, here you have this backup spare Captain America who leans more to the right, who got forgotten and who people don't really like, and when he does show up, he's usually on the wrong team until he's not, which in many ways makes him kind of the opposite of Steve, who Steve is always right. Even if he starts out on the wrong side of an issue, he'll eventually come to the right side.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see, like, if this show, if he's popular enough, whether we'll get like a mini series, or he'll become a larger part of what's going on in Captain America at the moment.
Yeah, he was in the last couple issues, which was fun.
Yeah.
Again, believing all the wrong things because apparently U.S. agent only watches like Rocks on News, and it's like, oh, Cap, if they say you broke out of prison and you're still part of Hydra, and like Cap tries to be like really gentle. It's like, John, your heart is in the right place. We're gonna sit down one day and have a talk, and I'm going to deprogram you, but I'm busy right now, so fuck off.
Yeah, Cap just needs to bite the bullet and just call him a fucking idiot.
Yeah, he punches him a little bit.
Yeah.
Like again, I don't know if you're keeping up with that Cap book, but they're like chasing a new version of Scourge who's killing dirty cops, and and a U.S. agent is like, oh, we got to stop the cop killers, Cap. Oh, the real American heroes. And Misty Knight's sitting there, and she's like, I was a cop, right? Before this, I was a cop.
Good. We're not like, look at what Daredevil is dealing with at the moment.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, man. So so there's your Wyatt Russell news, and man, I'm just a big fan of Wyatt Russell in general, and I'm just happy he got to join the Marvel universe.
Yeah, he's a fantastic actor.
He is totally. Man, Overlord was a good movie.
It really was.
That was a cool last movie. Our last story here is, of course, a Justice League related story, which I was not thinking of talking about. Much like its paranormal roots, Justice League Dark threatens to come back from the dead to punch its way out of the grave and live again, thanks to J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot, which they say are taking over both the film and TV franchise developments, which that's very weird wording, where it's like, oh yeah, we're going to be doing Justice League Dark, but it might not be film, or it might be film and TV. It might be both. We don't know.
Yeah, it's very strange. Very, very, especially considering that could be something that like Arrowverse could do.
Yes, where it's like, yeah, absolutely. It's like, well, you guys have got a Constantine, and you got a bunch of paranormal heroes. Hell, Legends of Tomorrow, just with the characters it introduced, is very close to a Justice League Dark.
Yep.
Man, how good was that last episode of Legends, by the way?
So good. It's so funny.
Making a hilarious mockumentary, them dealing with the new fame of being involved in the crossovers and then organically getting out of it at the end.
Yeah, all while trying to fight Rasputin.
Friggin' Rasputin, man. And then actually moving around a lot of the cast, too, so we can get new characters. I was really not expecting that, but maybe that's one of the reasons that Legends is so good. It's not afraid to shuffle the cast.
No, yeah, it was fantastic, and I'm all on board for this new season.
Totally. I love the idea of fighting history's greatest villains who are unkillable.
I said it like when it originally aired, but like all the shows like post-Crisis have been pretty fantastic, apart from like Batwoman, which doesn't really seem to be affected at all.
Because I think they had most of that already written and ready to go before the crossover.
Like Supergirl, first episode back, we got like comic accurate Brainiac 5, and
I saw that, and that blew my fucking mind.
Yeah, and I'm like, holy crap, this is so damn awesome! And they're exploring the world. This week's episode, Toyman comes back.
Ooh, which one? The Winslow Slott version or his kid?
Well, Winslow Slott from Another Earth that came onto this Earth when they combined.
Oh, interesting. Wow. The Crisis, I hope more shows do this, because it sounds like you're saying the Crisis gave them the chance for do-overs.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which is what the comics did forever, and I'm glad the shows have finally learned that. It's like, no. You do a Crisis, then you get a mulligan. You get to fix everything you did wrong, and it's completely fine to do so.
Yeah, and they seem to be taking full advantage of that. We haven't seen The Flash yet, so yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do.
I will be interested in The Flash, too, and I bet that Cisco isn't going to be there anymore because he wasn't in the other stuff.
I do know that they're doing a storyline where, like, what's her name? Iris, like, is moved on from Barry now because she thought he died, even though she knew he didn't die.
So they're going to, like, break them up, you think?
Oh no! Or the preview made it look like, oh, she's become a strong, independent woman who is no damsel in distress. I'm like, oh, that's gonna last half an episode.
Because doesn't it always the last 3 times they tried to do that?
Yeah.
Man, I feel so bad for that actress because Iris is consistently maybe one of the most underwritten characters in all of these shows.
Yeah, she's like an afterthought.
She really is, and it's not her fault, and they've done everything. They've tried giving her powers. They've tried giving her a kid. They've tried literally every trick in the television writer's bag of tricks, and it hasn't quite worked.
No.
and it's just like there's just nothing you can do with her, and it's such a shame. And I'm trying to ask myself, like, well, how does Iris in the comics not deal with that problem? I don't know.
Yeah, well, even like me reading the book, like she's in it, but like she kind of does like her own thing, and like when she's in it, she's not in it for very long.
Because she's not Lois, as much as
No.
they try and make her a Lois
Yes.
sometime. She isn't Lois Lane.
Yes.
And they try. They really
Oh
do
yeah,
try.
they
They
do.
try and give her. They try and give her busy work. They gave her a business where she like hired like more metahumans to come and work for her. And I'm just like, well, like it's something, I guess.
Yeah.
You know what I think it is? I think she was at her best in the first couple seasons when she was dating other people and Barry was pining for her, and it was one of those situations where the chase was better ultimately than the catch.
Yep.
And he can only say "I love you" so many times, and he can only say "Oh, I lied to protect you" so many times.
Yeah, maybe that's what they're doing now. Maybe that's like this is because of all of that. Like she's sick of all of like all the usual like going rounds of him dying and having to lie to her and all that. She's like, "Fuck it, I'm leaving."
Maybe. Oh, Loot Skeletor says Cisco is in the new episode, and there's some pictures floating around of him in a Superman shirt. Huh, that's cool.
Cool. I need to
I
catch
like
up on
that.
Black Lightning as well because that just had a recent episode that was post Crisis. I finished season 1 of it, and it's a damn fine show.
It is, from what I understand. I just never had time to watch it.
Yep.
Again, I joke about this all the time. I'm hearing about it from my mom who watched it, and she's like, "Oh yeah, they got what is it? What is it? A Geoforces country in there,
Mm-hmm.
and the Outsiders, and apparently they're talking about like a whole war in a
Yep.
Markovia." And I'm like, "Really? In Black Lightning? Holy shit!"
Yeah, like this first season it's only like 13 episodes long and it's perfect length. Like that's what these CW shows need to be. There's no fat in it. Every episode serves a purpose. The characters' arcs are really damn good.
When I watched it, that was something that stuck out to me. It was very well paced.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They paced it like they didn't think they'd get a season 2, which is probably how they should always write these.
Yeah, I would say though that like I found the first 2 episodes the hardest to get through just to get into that story because it felt like the first 2 episodes were shot long before the rest of the season.
Because they probably were.
Yeah, and it kind of like felt like a different show a little bit.
I'm a catch up on Batwoman too. Like I say, I have faith that Batwoman will become something great. It just kind of came in a weird place that she didn't get a show until the crises were happening. So she is the new kid, basically.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do with this post crisis. I did like in the post crisis episode they introduced Slam Bradley. I thought that was pretty fun.
I heard about that. That's fucking dope, and that's a deep cut, and that tells me people in the writers' room actually watch and read comics.
They introduced him, but like they didn't do anything with him. They did this whole story where he saved Batgirl from a speeding train, like just pushed her out of the way, and for some reason people thought they were dating because of that.
Oh.
And it led to this whole article being released about Batwoman being lesbian. But like that was the
Friggin' fake news.
whole story of it. I'm like, okay, now do something else with Slam Bradley. He's really interesting.
You know what I think too, again, and I'm like many episodes behind on Batwoman, when they deal with her weird home life there, it's like, why does she have a stepmom and a stepsister now that she never had in the books? Are you really reaching that hard to try and fill her supporting cast?
Yeah, well, I think her stepmother just died. I think just before.
Oh,
the crisis.
really?
Yeah, I think she. Yeah, she
Which
just died.
Which, man, that character might as well have had a sandwich board being like, "I will die soon." You know, because she literally reminded me of like Oliver Queen's stepdad from like the first season of Arrow, where it's like, well,
where they're like, oh, we'll just like repurpose the first season of Arrow, but like change characters' names.
It felt exactly like that, and it's like, I mean, come on, why not? Arrow was just Batman Begins Junior anyway, so let's just try and do it. Oh yeah, also Justice League Dark. That's what started this conversation, didn't it?
Well, there's not much to talk about. Like keep hearing about these things, and nothing ever happens with them.
No, this was in development for the longest time. They know there's something to Justice League Dark. They're just not sure how to get there. We'll get there at some point. It should be obvious where it's like, yeah, Paranormal Justice League, a team of paranormal crime fighters, and go.
Yeah, I get like that fight like threats that like the Suicide Squad fought in their first film.
Yeah. You know who really needs to handle this, but they clearly won't be. They need to get the same people who broke the story for Doom Patrol to come and write this.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I'd like to see them get like since the movies have kind of tapped them, people like David F. Sandberg and James Wan involved because of that horror
Yeah,
supernatural aspect to it. They understand that with their movies.
that would be fun. I would like that.
Yeah, although this whole time, like we've had Matt Ryan on Legends as Constantine.
Hmm.
I can't see anyone
Hmm.
else as Constantine now. He's perfect Constantine.
He is this generation's Constantine, and you love him more now because he survived so many iterations. They killed his show. He came back.
Yeah, he's now canon and everything.
Yeah, he's literally canon now. I would not want to fill his shoes. And it's like, well, you're not going to do a Justice League Dark with Wonder Woman, I don't think, because she's a little busy in the movies right now.
Yeah,
Although I don't know, maybe you can because you fucked up the first Justice League. I don't know.
that's true. Yeah, I'd actually really like that. Like she decides to start up her own team, and it's people like Man Bat and Zatanna and Dead Man.
It's like the more you talk about it, the more it's like that's kind of cool, but also kind of like, hey, sorry, we screwed up the main Justice League. Here's Justice League Dark. We promise you'll like it. I mean, you could do that, and you don't even have to bother with a new Batman or a new Superman. You can just do it because all those other characters haven't been introduced yet.
Yeah.
Shit, Matt, I think this might actually be the way to go. All right, Justice League Dark starring Wonder Woman.
Yeah, just set it in the 90s.
Gal Gadot gets her own team. Yep, it's 1992, and they fight the monsters from the trench. Because they're kind of magic, right?
Yeah, and they're getting a solo film.
I still cannot believe that.
Oh god.
Who do you think would win in a fight, Matt? The trench monsters or Morbius?
Oh, Morbius gets turned into a trench monster.
Who bites harder, trench monsters or Morbius? In the comments section below, tell us who bites harder, trench monsters or Morbius. The answer may surprise you.
Well, that's the thing. Jared Leto would actually go and try and find the real trench monsters to fight them.
The movie would never get made because he's such a method actor. He needs to find the trench monsters. He steals one of James Cameron's subs, and it's just him going lower and lower into the Marianas Trench looking for them. And they never saw him again. Sometimes I think that there's going to be a Morbius movie, and I laugh to myself. I'm like, that's not real. I'm like, that's not real. Then I see the trailer, and I'm like, oh, fuck me, it is real.
A Mobius movie that comes out very soon.
Very soon. I am actually super excited for the Morbius movie, not because I want to see it or because I personally think it's going to be a success. I really just want to gauge other people's reactions to it is what I really want to do.
I want to see the type of people that movie draws.
Absolutely.
I feel crowds that are in the cinema with me.
Yeah, I feel like a gambler when that movie comes out. I'm like, all right, I crapped out on Venom. It made $1 billion, but there was no way we could have seen that coming. Come on, Morbius. No one possibly cares that much about Morbius. Come on. Don't let me crap out on this one. I feel like I need to do like a stupid Morbius related challenge. Like if Morbius turns out to be a big success, I'll wear fake vampire fangs on stream for like a week. And I'll draw little mouths on my hands. Plasma. Ooh. Call it the Morbius challenge coming soon. Can you have fangs in your mouth for a week? Well, can you? Are you willing to do it? Let's make this the new Twitter thing, everyone. Hashtag the Morbius challenge.
Oh, jeez.
Hashtag the Morbius challenge. Come on, Sony. You got nothing else going on. I know you want a piece of this. Come on. Morbius challenge. So yeah, that's basically all the news, everyone, and we're almost at an hour. So and we talked about a little bit about what we read this week at the beginning of the show. So to take us to a full hour, and then we'll switch on over to the interview. I guess we'll just go over to the chat, and if they have any questions, they can just ask away. You can have our unfiltered opinion and unbridled attention for the next couple minutes. Oh, actually, hey, Space Lord's got one. Matt and Joel, did you guys hear the news about Captain Marvel 2 being announced and getting the writer from WandaVision? I didn't hear the WandaVision thing.
It, it kind of makes sense since we're getting Monica Rambeau in One Division.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I guess they want some synergy and some crossover there. That's cool.
Yeah, I will ask you this. Like, so we're getting like One Division, it's introducing all these
Mhm.
new characters.
Yeah,
Eternals
yeah.
introducing new characters. Like all these new movies coming out. Do you think they're like introducing too many new characters at once?
The way you make it sound, it does sound a bit like a risk, and it maybe does sound like a bit of overkill. But I guess it really comes down to how popular are those characters, and how much do people like them, and do they have a new interesting take on them?
Well, let's be honest. No one's like general audience has no fucking idea who the Eternals is,
Absolutely, that's true.
most comic book fans probably wouldn't either.
I mean, they have one very short-lived series, a bunch of cameo appearances, and a Neil Gaiman miniseries is
Yeah,
really all they have to their name of now.
yeah, and that's less than what
Maybe
the Guardians had when they had got their film.
yeah, at least Guardians had like Abnett and Lanning era and like a whole bunch of great Marvel cosmic stories under their belt. And even then, they didn't really take those as inspiration. They just made it a comedy and kind of let James Gunn put his own unique stamp on it. I wonder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really wonder. I mean, maybe too, Disney Marvel's learned a little bit about the algorithm machine, and where it's like, look, if we introduce these characters, people are want to go and research these characters, and they're going to be talking about them and like looking up on them and maybe buying their old books and everything, and maybe that'll be good for us.
Yeah, well, imagine by the time Eternals comes out, we'll have a series for them.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. Jersey Luck, what did you think of Wonder Woman 750? I did read the 5G bit because I knew that was
Mm-hmm.
going to be important. I was going to cover the 5G bit until I realized it was only like 3 or 4 pages.
Yeah, I read the whole issue. It was great. Like, it was a great collection of stories that just kind of showcase Wonder Woman's character, all the different facets of it. Steve Orlando got to finish up his story, which saw Wonder Woman get her bracelets and whip and
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
back. To move on to the next big storyline, and then yeah, we had the 7G the 5G bit, which saw Wonder Woman's first sort of appearance, saving Franklin Roosevelt from assassins.
I'll save you, Roosevelt. And she did. I like her costume is kind of retro. Oh, also too the Gail Simone story, which brought back Starbloom, the little girl who could control flowers, which was actually a character that Simone invented for
Mhm.
her last like big 75th
Yeah.
anniversary.
Yeah, it was nice seeing stuff like that come back. That was a really nice story as well. She just like
It was.
helps Wonder Woman, and then they have a barbecue.
Yeah, the first one was nice too. Simone is excellent at that. Marrying superhero craziness with just like down to earth slice of lifeness.
Yeah.
What else do we got going on here? Thoughts on recent stuff surrounding Sean Gordon Murphy's take on editorial? I wouldn't say he took on editorial. It's just like, hey, here's some stuff from the last issue of Batman White Knight, which I really enjoyed that
Hmm.
he would have done a little differently. I think they made him cover up some nudity, and he fought to like move some covers around to, make the reveal with Bane be more shocking, which worked.
Yeah, it certainly did work as well. I have to feel like it was also tied into the most recent reveal which we got, which is like
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne isn't a Wayne at all.
At all. Yeah. Unexpected. Didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I thought that was brilliant. And as I said in my review, this whole thing, like kind of adapting Nightfall, has adapted it even better than the actual original story and has actually made it interesting.
And also to add an extra layer to the Joker for him to being
Yeah.
like this is what makes me laugh, the fact that your entire fortune is stolen, that you fight criminals when you're actually descended from like the greatest criminal in Gotham history.
I really like that idea because that posits the idea that this Joker always knew that Bruce Wayne was Batman,
Hmm.
and yeah, his whole persona is I have a huge smile on my face because I know the truth and have always known the truth.
That I've been fucking with you this long. Also, too, great stuff for Harley Quinn. Honestly, when you stop and break it down, White Knight is as much about her as it is about Batman or the Joker, because she creates the plan that gets everything rolling in the original White Knight. And here, she kind of takes back a lot of her power and really becomes Batman's confidant and sidekick
Well,
here for this last little bit.
as Jack says, like she's overcome the Joker and humiliated him, and in a way become his greatest enemy.
Which I love.
Surpassing Batman, I think, essentially making her the White Knight.
Yes. Well, again, they imply. Well, Batman himself said that at the end of the first one, where it's like, no, Jack wasn't the White Knight, it was you. And even more so here in this story, where it's like, yeah, Harley is the White Knight, no doubt about it.
Probably my favorite definitive version of Harley Quinn.
Yeah, it's really
good. This is the bar that's been set.
It's really goddamn good. What else there? Secret boss sauce. What are your hopes for spoilers, Hercules and Guardians of the Galaxy? Yes, we finally got some more stuff on Hercules.
We talked about this the week before it happened.
The comic multiverse bump, we were totally right. We got to see the Olympians, the new Olympians in their new powers, and we got to see Hercules, and it's really fucking cool. I hope Hercules joins the team, because this team looks to be much more different than any other Guardians team we've seen before.
Yeah, I like that this team also makes a callback to when Star-Lord started the original Guardians, how it was just like him, Rocket, and Groot. Now it's just him and Rocket, and then like Phyla-Vell and Marvel Boy just kind of like join in.
I love how they recruit Marvel Boy. And it's just like, hey, you going on a cosmic adventure? Hey, I get a push every couple of years. Can I come and join?
Hey, I was in Royals. I was really good in that series.
I was. Hey, I'm a Grant Morrison invention. Everybody, can I come play in your sandbox?
But yeah, I really like that the Olympian gods are now like villains that are just like cleaning up the galaxy. And we got Hercules, who looks really cool here, and he's obviously not a villain.
No, yeah.
But yeah, I hope he joins the team. I've been waiting for this storyline to like be picked up since the end of No Road Home.
And it's fitting that Ewing does it, because he helped write No Surrender and No Road Home. Apparently, all those writers every so often talk to each other and be like, hey, are you going to pick this up? Are you going to pick that up? If not, I'll do it. Lute Skeletor with a good one. Who would you guys cast as Bruce Wayne on Batwoman? I assume that they'll probably pull what Supergirl did and introduce him in season 2. Yeah, good question. Huh.
I don't know. It'll have to be someone that CW can afford to keep bringing back every now and then.
Yeah,
so probably a no-name actor.
Someone in the chat said Nikolai Coster-Waldau, and I'm like, oh, they're not going to be able to afford. It'd be fun, but they ain't going to afford him. I mean, in fairness, I didn't know who Tyler Hoechlin was until he showed up as Superman, and he's great.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
So I trust their ability to find someone good. Someone said Jensen Ackles. I don't know. Can they afford Jensen Ackles anymore?
Oh, he's got Supernatural finishing up this year. What else has he got going for him? He's not like his brother in that show that's starring in the new Walker Texas Ranger reboot.
Walker, Texas Ranger. Tevi asks, Matt and Joel, what do you think of the whole 5G thing? Do you think it's going to work or blow up in their faces? I mean, if it doesn't, then they'll just get rid of it the way that DC always does. I have no faith in any new continuity device that DC invents, because either be it multiple Earths or hyper time or whatever the fuck else, 5G now, they're just going to get rid of it in a couple years.
Yeah, it never stays around, so there's no point like dwelling on it.
Yeah, nothing ever sticks. Oh, Lute Skeletor saying no. What he was talking about was Murphy subtweeting and acting aggressive towards a female editor who worked at Marvel, who got a ton of flack and had to delete the tweets. No, Lute, I did not see that, Lute Skeletor. Oh, yikes! That gets a yikes from me.
Why was he acting aggressive? What was this Marvel editor doing?
I mean, I guess we'll have to go back and look at those tweets. But that's a spicy meatball there. We'll have to go back and look at that.
Yeah.
What else we got going on? Crusader Con, do you guys have access to Krakoa? Because all of your guesses say yes. Also, can I join? Man, what would our biome be, Matt, if we lived in Krakoa? If we were mutants who got to live there, what would it look like?
I don't know.
Fridges filled with cans of Zevia that the Marauders smuggled in for me.
Yeah.
You know, big lazy boy chairs made of vines.
Yeah, you'd have to have like the sex room, because every house apparently in Krakoa has one.
Well, naturally, I mean, because you gotta make more mutants. That's the law. That's
It's
right
the law.
there. It's like, at lunchtime where it's like, oh, time to clock off. Here in Krakoa, it's like, oh, it's bone time, everybody. Time to get down in the bone
Yeah,
room.
time to cock on.
Cock on. And everyone is much happier for it, and their society works very well. That's why Kitty Pryde's so upset why she can't go through the portal and get to Krakoa. She's like, man, missing a lot of bone time, apparently.
That's the sole reason why she's trying to get there.
It's what everyone keeps telling me about. I can't get in the bone room. Space Lord, do you guys think we can ever get an Earth 2 book? Honestly, the more time that goes on, the less I think they're going to do it, especially now that they've brought back the original JSA, and Earth 2, for all intents and purposes, was just kind of a younger, hipper updating to the JSA formula.
Yeah, Earth 2 does still exist, at least as of the last issue of Dial H for Hero. But whether or not like it will after this whole like Doomsday Clock stuff, because it's not mentioned in the end of Doomsday Clock issue 12, I don't think. They mention stuff like Earth 1985 and all these different Earths, but they don't mention Earth 2. So yeah, I imagine it's just going to be like the JSA Earth again, like just classic JSA.
It's like I also wouldn't want more Earth 2 unless Tom Taylor was working on it, because he wrote it the longest stretch of time and he's clearly busy with other things.
Yeah. Or he provided like story outlines or something for another competent writer, like Scott Lobdell.
Yeah, like Scott Lobdell. I mean, obviously he can finish the story. He can finish the fight. Dante Kelly says, hey, Jill and Matt, go Power Rangers. The second Power Rangers book is ending. Any chance of a story so far? Man, Dante Kelly, I would love to go back and do more Power Ranger stuff. I am so ridiculously behind, and every so often people will tell me about the cool shit that's happening there. And I'm like, I want to read that, but I can't.
Yeah, I saw some really cool. I saw something, I don't know whether it was for like some fan created or whether it was for like a crossover series, but like Shredder becomes the Green Ranger. Like there's a crossover with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or something.
Yes, that was the Power Rangers Ninja Turtles one.
God damn, that's awesome.
That looks really cool. Oh, Loot Skeletor saying that the person Murphy got into a bit of a Twitter fight with was Heather Antos.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's a yikes, because I actually kind of know Antos. I've got a couple degrees of Kevin Bacon, and she's been very nice and very cool, and not the kind of person I would pick a fight with. That's uncomfortable.
Yeah, okay.
Unfortunate. Okay, we'll try and answer a couple more. Need to catch up on the Ninja Turtle books. I guess it just ended TMNT Power Rangers, because everyone's saying it's great in the past tense.
Mm-hmm.
Space Lord, what about an Earth 3 book following the Crime Syndicate? I would read it. I'm honestly shocked they haven't tried to do something like that sooner.
Yeah, well, they've just brought back Earth 3, and they're involved with Perpetua at the moment. So yeah, I imagine we might get something from them once this is all wrapped up.
I love the ass pull that Tynan does to try and explain how Bendis brought back Earth 3, even though they were all dead and it was destroyed.
It's seamless.
Is like Perpetua, I've always been watching out for the evil Earths because, they're more susceptible to doom and part of my plan.
That felt like it's like, oh, fuck, Bendis brought these back now. I have to fucking, just worlds going to doom, and because of that, doom worlds are being reborn and healed.
Yeah, that was literally just a don't think about it too much.
Yeah. God damn it.
Just don't think about it too much. One last one here from Devin the Great, and he says, hey, Joel and Matt, do you have a Marvel The End one-shot pitch? Obviously, Marvel The End has been going on right now. I read the Venom one, and I breezed through the Miles Spider-Man one. I think the Deadpool one came out this week, too, but I actually haven't been keeping up with them.
I haven't read any of them. I read like the old, back when it came out, the
Hulk The End was the
Wolverine one.
Yeah, that one and the Hulk one were pretty solid. They're cool. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I didn't think Venom or Deadpool would get the end books, but they did.
Yeah.
And I mean, that Venom one was really nuts and went into a lot of directions to be like, and at the end of the universe, Venom is the last organic being because, he's got the codexes going on. So basically all of humanity exists inside Venom because he's touched everyone at some point or another by the end of time.
It just went around touching folk.
Just touching. Like literally that's what it is. And there's a group of mechanicals, and we're kind of doing the Mass Effect thing where it's the last of the organics versus the ruling mechanicals, which actually isn't too far from what Hickman talks about in his X-Men future.
Yeah.
So it kind of lines up and kind of makes sense. And like Venom's got to fight the robots for the right to reseed the human race.
Mm-hmm.
So, Venom, greatest hero of mankind, saving the human race. That's always fun. I don't know what I would do. Squirrel Girl, the end. What's she going to be like on a world that's nothing but her and squirrels?
It would be a paradise.
I know, right? That's the thing. Like, that would be the joke. Like, all the end books are really dark and grim because everyone's died and, the world is over and it is the end. Let's do a Squirrel Girl book, but her, like, dark future is actually super bright and happy. Or, like, in the future, like, you could do the really fucked up version of that, too. Like, Squirrel Girl has died, but there's just a bunch of sentient squirrels puppeting her from the inside, Weekend at Bernie style. And it's just the squirrels talking to themselves at the end of the world. See, look, I can write an end story. You just got to think of the most dark, fucked up future you can think of. That Hulk one was especially fucked up. The old one they did, which actually fits very much in line with Immortal Hulk now, with Banner being like, oh, I can't even die because every time I try and shoot myself, the Hulk stops the bullet.
Yeah. That one was very dark.
Very dark. Very, very dark. Much like what we're getting now from Immortal Hulk. But yeah, everyone, I guess that'll just about do it for the show. Thank you for coming and hanging out. Thank you for the questions and everything. But don't go away, because you actually got more show coming very soon. So until then, Matt and myself will say goodbye to you right now.
Yes.
And with that, everyone, I will throw on over to myself from the past. So, hey, Joel from the past, what do you got for us?
See you, everyone.
Bye-bye. And thank you, future me. Yes, that's right, everyone. It's time for another Comic Multiverse interview segment. I have a wonderful guest with me today. You've actually seen her once before. In fact, Ashley, I think with 2 guest appearances here, I think you're leading the pack in Comic Multiverse guest appearances. And I actually got your video working this time, so I feel pretty good about that as well.
As a Canadian, I am honored, and thank you, and I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. We got to take care of each other, us Canadians, or these Americans will just eat us alive.
Yeah, they're rough.
Indeed.
Although, I mean, we had an election recently. It worked out fine.
Yeah, it worked out fine. I actually got politically motivated this year for the first time. I'm like, all right, I got to freaking get out there this time.
I voted in absentia, so whenever someone tells me in America that they can't vote, I get real mad.
I felt extra stupid because I'm like, geez, I would work in this crazy, internet schedule, will I be able to go out and do it? Will I be able to find my place? It turns out there's a voting place like literally walking distance from where I live.
Nice.
So I felt...
Well, then that worked out okay.
It worked out excellently. I felt double stupid. I'm like, you mean I could have been voting this whole time and just didn't know it? Drat. I was like the youngest person at my polling place, too. And I'm like, this says a lot about modern politics. Where are the young people?
That is fully true. The first time I voted, I went to the University of Ottawa, and we voted in our dorm building. It was like in the lower level, and I remember being like, "This is anticlimactic." I thought it was gonna be more than this, but like it's just a piece of paper.
Yeah, just a piece of paper. It's not scary at all. So last time I had you on, actually, I think it was in March, if I recall, because the Captain Marvel movie had just come out there. And how have you been since?
Not bad. I'm almost a full year older now, so I'm just more tired and more exhausted.
I like to think of it as leveling up. We've leveled up since.
Yes, I have. I just have more years experience since then. I don't know, like what's happened in the last year. I feel like the last year has been 100 years long. Science, The Elements of Dark Energy came out. That came out in December.
Yes.
It's available now where all fine comics are to be had. I got did I have a cat? I have a cat. He's around somewhere. I told the casting director that I would die for him, and he didn't think that was funny at all. So I was like, "Ooh, a straight guy. Sorry.
Dang.
Won't make that one again."
Badum tish.
Yeah. It's winter now in LA, so it's a balmy 17 degrees Celsius. and I'm freezing.
I really wish I could like move the camera and show you the window. There was such a massive storm here where I live. Literally, the snow is stacked on the windows right now.
Oh yeah, my mom lives in Fredericton.
Oh, they got it bad.
Yeah, they had that. I saw it from the CBC in St. John, which there's the one in Newfoundland. Is it St. John in Newfoundland?
Yes.
Or St. John's in Newfoundland?
Newfoundland and Labrador.
There was a time lapse of someone's car, and it got completely buried. Yeah.
You read my freaking mind. It was totally going there.
And I was like, oh boy, I'm so glad I live in SoCal where things are just on fire. There was an earthquake yesterday.
Yeah, really. You know, if you do one extreme weather traded for another.
Yeah, literally, I was like, I don't want to be cold. I want to be too hot. How have you been, man? Other than all the videos that I've been watching you on.
Oh, thank you. You know, I've been working there, you know, doing all my other shows, trying different types of videos here and there. Got some stuff brewing for the new year, some conventions and stuff I want to hit up and everything. I'm working on my bucket list to try and work a convention in every Canadian province.
Ooh, are you going far afield this year, hopefully?
That's on my list. I got a couple feelers out.
Nice.
It's early in the year, and I'm like, oh, did I jump the gun? Did I write some of these places too early? I don't know, but yeah, I'm working towards that. I remember when last time we talked to you were doing a really cool thing and something I think about a lot myself. You were going out for your American citizenship. How did that go?
Yeah, still going. As it turns out, it takes 18 months, and I applied in April because you can only apply 90 days before your green card's going to expire. So that's not nerve-wracking in the slightest. So I've applied, and I'm still waiting. It takes up to 18 months. And when you don't have six figures in your bank account, then it will take 16 months or 18 months. And for me, 18 months is September this year. So still waiting, still like panic emailing my lawyer every once in a while and saying, are you sure everything's fine?
I believe in the movies they call this a ticking clock is what they call this.
Yeah, well, it's like, what if I don't hear anything in 18 months? It's like, well, then I guess I gotta leave. But I don't know if I said this, I'm sure I said this on it, but I'm so deep in the process that unless something really bad happens and I become a criminal, it's just a matter of waiting, which isn't always comforting.
No.
But I just try to like put it in a box in the back of my mind.
Compartmentalizing is a skill.
And freak out about it later because there's literally nothing I can do to make it go faster.
Totally.
So I'm still waiting. So maybe the next time we talk, I'll be a citizen.
Hopefully that is. We'll put a pin in that to talk in September. You know who's got that really bad? I think it was John Oliver was telling the story of working at the Daily Show and being a British citizen and trying to put that together and just the hell he was under, where it's like, okay, you got to be in New York to shoot the show, but also your work visa's ticking down and you don't have your green card yet, but you still have to be here for work reasons and you can't not show up. So, you know, be ready for that. You might be breaking the law in a couple days.
That is very true. And when it comes to like renewing or taking the next step, whether you're going to get a new green card or a new visa or apply for citizenship, like the application window is so close to when your last one is expired. And then usually to extend it, they don't just send you a new green card. They send you a piece of paper that you have to take to the airport with your green card that is expired that says that this piece of paper allows it to be extended. So like the airports love me, really. And traveling with as a resident of one country with a passport of another is like, I always get flagged for extras. I've always been randomly selected.
Oh, that's got to be fun.
Yeah. And I'm like, I know that this happens to as a white person. Like I'm still experiencing a very privileged version of what I've never been taken into like the side room or anything. I know that there are people who live in the States and are residents of the States and have American passports or of many other countries, but they still get flagged because of the color of their skin or if they have certain accents.
Naturally.
So I don't mean to be woe is me, but it definitely complicates the process in a way that sometimes feels unnecessary.
And traveling is complicated enough. I I actually have been pulled into the side room a couple times, but for a
no.
but for a hilarious reason. Like, this one makes me laugh. So apparently back in the early 80s, there was like a IRA bomb maker by the name of Tim Daly, and Joel was one of his aliases.
Oh, no.
So
and then they meet you and they're like, he's just a nerd.
Yeah, it's like, I'm just a nerd. And so it gets a little extra messed up, too, because I actually do have an uncle whose name is Tim, too. So I'm sure in their cross-referencing, they're like, oh, did he take someone else's alias or name? It's like, no, it's just spelt the same. Come on.
Isn't Tim Daly also one of the voices of Superman?
Also that. I wish I was related to that guy, but I'm not. I'm not related to Andy Daly, the comedian, either. Or John Daly, the golfer. I wish.
Oh, man. I was like, there are famous golfers who aren't Tiger Woods.
Apparently, I know, right? I have to learn this to diffuse these situations at airports, but don't say the word diffuse at an airport. They don't like that either.
Yeah, there's all those jokes where it's like, oh, man, it's just comedians talking about bombing, and they get torn away at the airport.
I'm a big fan of punk style boots too, and they give me the ones over where it's Doc like, Martens, yeah, it's like, are you holding drugs in the heels? I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing until you said it.
When I was at the Portland airport, they make you take off your shoes, even if you're flying domestic, and someone threw up on my feet, so that was a real treat.
Yikes, that's fun. Philly airport at 6 a.m. Traveling with the people who clearly travel a lot, where they're just like, yep, jacket off, shoes off, barefoot, walking right through it. I'm just like, man, that we're trained so well now, some people, to be like, all right, please invade my space for a little bit so I can fly, please.
But there are also, and I won't name the airports because I hope they don't change, when you go to really small airports, they're like, you don't have to take your shoes off.
I know.
And you're like, God bless you. What a civilized. When you leave, I flew to London for work twice last year. And when you leave the UK, you don't have to take your shoes off. Like a real civilized country. And I was starting to take my shoes off, and the official comes over and they're like, no, you don't have to take your shoes off. And I think I literally said, bless you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I've been really trying to save some money with flying in my last couple trips. Have you heard of an airline called Flair Air?
I have not, but I love the name.
They're a Canadian company, and they are the most cut-rate Canadian flying that you have ever seen.
I mean, I've flown JetBlue, so...
It's basically the JetBlue of Canada, where it's like, look, you get one carry-on, a chair, and that's about it, and we promise we'll get you there cheaper than Air Canada. I'm like, yep, I'll do it. I'll see if I can pack an entire trip in a knapsack, and I'm like, oh, this is a little heavy. Oh, what if they stop me?
Have not checked a bag in probably 7 years.
That's the way you gotta do it.
Because they, especially in the States did it first, and now Air Canada's picking up on it. They changed it, so now even if you're flying domestic, they charge you for a check. So unless I'm going to sell something, I will not check I will put 35 pounds in a carry-on and wing that thing into the overhead compartment. If no one stops me. Although when we went to Emerald City Comic Con last year and then came back to find one of our apartment buildings on fire, I had, I think, a box of like 35 Jupiter jets in a carry-on, and paper doesn't X-ray. No,
I guess not.
So they're cutting it open, and you're like, please don't cut the covers of my book.
Yeah, pretty close.
And they're like, why do you have these? And you're like, I wrote it. I'm going to. And like, the TSA people are always lovely, but they're always baffled by whatever I have to tell them I'm doing for work. And they're like, this is your book? And you're like, yes. Yeah, it's like trying to get a Zoom through or something. And they're like, what is this? And you're like, it's an audio recorder. I can show you if you want. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I didn't know.
They give me hell for my microphone every time. It's a simple blue Yeti, but they give me hell for this every time in every airport.
I've taken one of those to Canada before, but I feel like Air Canada for me is often my only choice because it's like the only thing that flies international regularly.
Yep, I agree. Man.
Not a fan of Air Canada, if I could be completely honest.
I agree. There's another company, again, because I'm like researching all the cheap airlines. Swoop Airline, they're brand new. They're even cheaper than Flair, and their deal is like, look, you want to have a vacation this year? Give us $100. Don't care where you're going, and we promise we'll send you someplace warm from these like 5 airports in Ontario.
Interesting. So they're just flying in. They're just taking routes from Interesting.
Little bit like, you know that bit in The Simpsons where it's like, hey, to save money, just show up at the airport, wait for some no-shows, and don't care where you're going.
Yes. My mother in the 1980s did that when her first husband divorced her, just went to the airport and was like, where can I go? And I think she went to Mexico. And in the 80s, having not been alive, just seems like a crazy, wild time. She went under the woman's name. Like, it was not her name on the ticket. They just gave her this other lady's ticket who didn't show up. And I was like, that seems wildly illegal to me. But I don't know. She made it back in time and made me, so it all worked out.
That's lucky. Yeah, I think a couple of the places they had where it's like, you can get Vegas, you can get Cabo, Mexico, you can get Orlando, Florida. I'm like, oh, come on, give me the cheap Orlando flight. I've been planning a Disney trip forever, and airfare always screws me.
Also, Vegas is lame.
Is it really? See, I've always wanted to go.
I mean, if you've never been, go and see it for the first time. But I don't drink, I don't gamble, and I don't hire sex workers. So there's literally like nothing in Vegas for me. I've been a bunch because it's quite close to Los Angeles and because the Star Trek convention is there.
That's true.
And I go to Vegas to eat at the TV chef's restaurants. Like, that is what I do in Vegas.
Same. I would want to hit up the food. Like, I think it's the Red Rock Casino has like the best, most affordable buffet. You can eat there.
Can I give you... This is so funny. Can I give you my buffet hack for Vegas?
Yes, please. 100%. I'm all ears.
Which I heard from another podcast. I heard from Don't Get Me Started. So this is the cheapest way you can eat in Vegas.
Okay.
So you can buy a pass. It's like a little card to eat at all of the major casino buffets on the Strip.
Nice.
It's $50. It's good for 24 hours. So you get it at like 4 or 5 in the afternoon, have an early dinner, get up, have breakfast, and then have either a late lunch or another early dinner. So you're getting 3 meals for $50 in Las Vegas.
That's a hack and a half.
That's it doesn't get you into the fancy seafood buffet. That's another $30, but even at that, it's still $80. So that's my hack, is like to do that and then go and be like, am I going to Bobby Flay's restaurant, or am I going to Gordon Ramsay's restaurant, or like whatever.
See, I would do that, and I would hit up like the organized crime museum I think they have there. That's what I would want to do. I'd want to see like the old Vegas that's not there anymore because they blew it up and built resorts on top of it.
Totally. Yeah, like I think Vegas is worth doing once, but if you're not, I feel like if you're not there to gamble and drink, or to see someone, I don't really know if it like holds a lot. And like, I don't want to jump off the stratosphere. So
yeah, that's my thing, where it's like, I don't drink and I feel like I'd have to drink to want to jump off the stratosphere.
Yeah, totally. I like to stand on the sidewalk and watch people do it, but there's just no way you're going to convince me to pay money to do that. I'm only jumping off a building if I'm on The Amazing Race.
Oh yeah, that too. Man, I remember I used to be such a big Amazing Race fan. Then they changed it to the same night as another show, and I stopped, but then was really happy years later when I found out it's still on TV all these years later.
It's on. It's the only thing I watch on CBS All Access. That's not Star Trek.
Yeah, it's good shit. It's a very well-made reality game show.
Yeah, Phil Kagan, is that his last name? He's
so.
Great. He has a cool podcast. Not that he needs any more listeners, but...
just so we're saying. Yeah, go over there and tell him Ashley and the Comic Multiverse sent you.
That's right. Let us see if he'll pay to have some ads for us on his show.
Yes, please, for the love of God. I'm thinking I should start doing that now. It's like, look, do you have a thing you want to promote? Give me $50 and I'll promote it at the top of
Why not? That's one of our Kickstarter rewards, is you can sponsor an episode of Geek History Lesson.
Nice. See, that's a great idea. And speaking of Geek History Lesson and promotion, you have a brand new book in the works and a brand new Kickstarter that you wanted to talk about.
That is absolutely true. I said, Joel, please help me talk about my book. So can I hang on? I'm going to.
Please do.
So if people are familiar with me and my writing, I wrote this book, Jupiter Jet, with Jason Inman, who is my favorite person in the world, and also my husband, and also the co-host of Geek History Lesson, and buddy of Joel. So he like passes muster at all points. So we wrote that book, we kickstarted it, and now we are back with Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio. That's Jupiter Jet Volume 2 on Kickstarter, and we're really hoping that we can reach our funding goal to pay the creative team, except Jason and I don't take a page rate. Oh, wow. We're only looking to pay the artist, the colorist, the letterer, and make sure that they make a living wage, because it takes them a lot more time to make a book than it takes us. And we're very, very proud of it. The second volume. So if you haven't read the first volume, skip ahead like 30 seconds because I'm going to spoil the ending of it.
Yes. I covered issue 1 of this on the channel, so I'm actually very interested in to figure this out myself as well.
So the first volume ends with this big sci-fi twist. So Jupiter Jet is a 16-year-old girl who inherited a jetpack from her dead father, and so she becomes this hero to her neighborhood Olympic Heights, and she fights bad guys who might be aliens. And at the end of the first book, something happens and she breaks through the atmosphere flying straight up and discovers that she's not on Earth in 1935. She's actually on Europa, which is a moon orbiting Jupiter.
Oh, and thus the name.
Yes. Well, actually, she's technically named after Sailor Jupiter, who's my favorite Sailor Senshi. And her color scheme is like based on Makoto's color scheme.
Oh, wow. I'm just noticing that now. Holy shit.
It is.
Whoa,
so like the green and the purple is...
I'm Bruce Willis at the end of The Sixth Sense right now. It all makes sense.
I just saw that movie last year for the first time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Even knowing the twist, that's a good movie. The guy's gonna go somewhere.
I
have
right?
like 3 Sailor Jupiter action figures right over there on his shelf. So she breaks out and she's in space, and oh my god, what does that mean? And volume 2 is very much exploring, oh my god, what does that mean? So she defeats the evil Praetor Pluto at the end of volume 1, and I say defeats because this is an all-ages book, so we try to keep the death to a minimum.
Very Disney death. They slept.
Just killed her parents at the beginning of it and didn't worry about it. And so at the beginning of volume 2, she meets a new foe called the Black Flyer, who, if you go to jupiterjetcomic.com right now, that'll take you right to the Kickstarter. You can see some images of the Black Flyer when she's up in space doing some resistance business, and the Black Flyer leads Jackie, and it's a full year later now, so she's 17. She thinks she knows how the world works. Leads her into space and on a much more cosmic Star Trek style adventure than people saw in book 1. And her little brother Chuck, who desperately wants to be her sidekick, is left back on Europa to kind of manage the day-to-day superhero business that Jupiter Jet isn't able to undertake when she's cavorting around in space. And that will, of course, lead to conflict between the two of them. But if people read the Kickstarter campaign, and I'm convinced, having run 4 of them, that people do not read Kickstarter campaign. But if you read the Kickstarter campaigns, and if you look at the press release and you're looking at a lot of the language that we're using, you might notice that there's a lot of Western references and cowboy Easter eggs that are being dropped, which is a pretty good hint at the type of civilization that Jackie is going to encounter in her interstellar adventures. And if people respond really well to that, because the first volume is very much like 1930s New York City, and now we're doing cowboys. So if people respond well to that, then in future volumes, we're going to go to different places that are inspired by different periods in time, because obviously nobody's on Earth. That's the big reveal.
Clever. I like it. That solves a lot of problems too with sequel writing, and that's what I want to talk to you about, because so many of our favorite works kind of bungle it when it comes to the sequel. Either they get so far away from what people liked it's unrecognizable, or they play it too safe and just kind of do the same but different. I'm a big fan of 22 Jump Street, because I feel that one actually made a lot of good jokes and a lot of references to the problems with sequels, and that is, we just want you to do the same but different.
It's so funny, because everyone's asking me about, everyone like in the live streams that I've been trying to do is asking about like, what is different? What are you looking forward to us seeing in volume 2? And besides all of it, Jason and I have become so much better writers than we were on volume 1. We've written more in different genres. And so I just understand so much more about all the planning on the back end that goes into telling an incredible story. So when we prep, like we did story circles for all of our protagonists, we did wants and needs, and we planned the whole arc. And volume 1 was a little bit more like by the seat of our pants, issue to issue, trying to figure out how to solve for the end, because we knew what the end was going to be. Right. Before we even pitched it, we always knew it was going to be that reveal that she was going to be on Jupiter or proximate to Jupiter. And volume 2, we had some ideas that we had thrown in a Google Doc from when we were first writing volume 1, and you get off on a tear and what if this, what if this, what if this?
Naturally.
And we're not doing single issues for volume 2. Praise, because no one should do single issues anymore. We're just doing the graphic novel, so there is a little bit more of being able to like write for the trade, so we can plant things and serve them and let them bloom and grow later on, and it's going to feel a little less contrived because people are going to get the story all at once instead of monthly, which is my preference, and I hope we can be leaders in changing the comic book industry.
Yeah,
but it is really a fine balance of being able to reference stuff that's come before, lay an Easter egg, but also try to do something new and different that still feels the same. And as a huge Trek fan, and on the day that we're recording this, Picard is coming out.
Yes, it is.
That's something that's very, and Star Wars just kind of wrapped up their latest saga. Like that is something that is very much in the sphere right now. And luckily we have a lot of good examples to look at, and we have a lot of bad examples to look at. And there can be value in that too. Not bad, but maybe things that we didn't respond to or we didn't like as much.
Right.
So it's like, okay, I didn't like this, so we are going to try not to do that. And we always really strive to make sure that things make sense. So even when a reveal is quick and sudden and is designed to sort of take you aback, we hope that if you go and revisit Jupiter Jet, or if you think about it, you're like, oh no, this was actually flagged along the way. Like it totally makes sense that she's out in space now. And when we do reveal the identity of the Black Flyer, I hope that people understand why we made that choice, because the Black Flyer is set up in volume 1, and the character does appear in volume 1. And I'm hoping that people are delighted with that choice, because I've really enjoyed exploring who that character is and what they mean to Jupiter Jet and using them to set up a lot of the drama. But it does feel like a responsibility, because before we were sort of making it in a bubble, and now we have people who are fans and who are asking for it, which is why we wanted to do this before people stopped asking for more Jupiter Jet. But we also have a lot of nice critics and reviewers and pundits who we're reaching out to again. And I also don't want to let them down, because I've been that person where I loved a series and you get to know the creator, or you're in contact with them and they send you the next one and you're like, I hate this.
Yeah.
How do I deal with that? And I want people to be honest. So when I ask people to tell me what they think, or ask people to go and review the books on Amazon, because that's so valuable. I tell people, like, be honest. You truly can't say anything worse than anything I've ever thought about myself. So,
yeah,
but also
is true.
I want to make sure that I delight and enchant people, or however you want your comics to make you feel.
Yeah, and I noticed too, I'm looking at your Kickstarter page right now. You have some really good stretch goals here and some really good reward tiers for people who do kick into the Kickstarter. My personal favorite is for a little over 200, you can be drawn into the comic, and it's very, very hard for me to not want to drop 200, and then I'm like, oh, I've always wanted to be in a comic.
That's a reward that we've had for all of our comics, and it's because we've been very spoiled knowing comic artists. So Jason and I are in a bunch of Jason's in a Batman comic.
I know, he gets around that guy.
Yeah, Jason's in Eisner Award-winning Sheriff of Babylon. My good friend Phil Seavey drew both of us into the Tithe, which is so cool. I have like the splash page of that, so I know how incredible that is. And then sometimes, like, truly how flattering people draw you. You're like, oh wow, is that how people see me? I don't think I look like that. We have cameos available at around the $200 mark. We had one supporting character that went the first day, which is so cool. And then because people bought that in volume 1, some of the supporting characters and some of the cameos are coming back because those characters turned out to be really, really important. Yeah. So it's also kind of a long-term investment.
Yeah,
and
nice?
there's really a chance that you could appear in volume 2. So there's like people in volume 2 who didn't necessarily back at that level, but those characters wound up being really, really important. And then it's fun for us to be like, that's my friend. So hopefully when it's a cartoon, hopefully when Netflix reaches out and buys it, then all of those character designs will be preserved. I'm actually really shocked that, speaking of Sheriff of Babylon, we have a portfolio review from Mitch Gerrits. Artists of Sheriff of Babylon and Batman and Mr. Miracle, these independent books that you've probably never heard of. I'm surprised that no one's picked that one up yet, because most of our rewards are really comic centric, and they're focused around being in the comic or making your own comics, because some of the people who bought our rewards for the first Jupiter Jet campaign have gone on to kickstart their own comics and produce their own work, and like that's the most flattering thing of all. And if you get a script or a portfolio review from whoever and you let us know that you're kickstarting it or you're selling it, like I will be there to support it. But Mitch is just such a superstar. And then we also convinced Steve Lieber, who I love and I think is incredible, who's drawing Jimmy Olsen right now and did Spirit Foes of Spider-Man, to do a portfolio review.
Spirit Foes.
Oh my God, it's so good. I have a Superman and Robin commission by him, and it's so beautiful. He's also the nicest human. Like, if you were going to look for someone to mentor you, he's, I think, a wonderful. I think the world of him. I just think he's such an incredible person. But yeah, and then if you enjoy this podcast and you like me, you can also get a review by me. And I do work as an editor, and I was a head editor at Top Cow for a year. So there's all kinds of levels where you can be involved in the comic or in making comics in some way. And that was really important to me to sort of preserve that idea, because Carl Kessel said this, and I think it's so intelligent. The most exciting comics are happening on Kickstarter and the biggest ideas. Indeed. And that's the reason why they're not being picked up by publishers right away, because they're brave and they're creative and they're out there. And then once you can prove that you have an audience, then publishers come knocking. So I want to keep building that economy, because Kickstarter is very much its own little industry right now.
Most definitely. You mentioned too the Netflix thing right there. It's like when it gets picked up to be an animated show. I think that's a great goal, and especially now when Netflix is turning out so many great original animated things at the moment.
Oh man, it would be. Look, I would love for anyone to get it, but the dream is that it goes to Netflix. And I've always said that I want Jason and I to voice Jupiter Jet's parents, who are featured very heavily in the backup. But obviously we murderized before issue 1.
I love creator cameos.
I also just think from like a meta narrative perspective, if we were the parents of her, I think it would be kind of cool.
All right, let's voice cast this right now. Who voices Jupiter Jet?
Sophia Lillis.
That's pretty good.
Or if we wanted to go live action, she'd also be great in live action.
I always throw Janet Varney up for anything, just because I'm a big Janet Varney fan. I just like
she's
her. Great. She's good. Tim Curry doesn't work as much anymore, but wouldn't you love to have Tim Curry voice the villain?
I would. I also think he needs to rest.
Yeah, that's true.
So I saw a photo of him recently that made me really sad. So I think
we saw the same one, yeah.
Yeah. Kevin Michael Richardson.
Ooh, he's good.
For Pluto.
And
he's
so
a really great actor. And another just lovely, beautiful human being. For
Teddy bear
Chuck,
of a man.
Absolutely. I waffle between having someone like a Tara Strong, like an adult, who does really good little boy voices, because her voice for Gizmo in the Teen Titans, the OG Teen Titans cartoon, is very much what I imagine for Chuck. But if I had to cast a boy, I would probably say Noah Jupe, who was in Ford v Ferrari. I think he's really talented.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he brings a good energy. And then so this isn't a spoiler because it's on the Kickstarter campaign, but Volume 2, Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio, introduces a new Praetor, and it introduces Praetor Venus. So we have our first female Praetor, and there is a trans female actress who is in... she's going to be in Deputy, and she was on RuPaul's Drag Race, and her stage name is Peppermint, and I love her. I also think she's truly just one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in the world. Like, she's so striking. I would want her to play Venus. And then also because maybe when she's doing a drag show, because Venus is very, for me, Grace Jones inspired. I think she could do a really cool Venus look as well. So I'm always thinking on too many levels when I think about voice casting.
I like it. I like that a lot. Yeah, clearly we think very similarly. Man, you mentioned Grace Jones there. I'm sure you saw the picture making the rounds there. If it was Grace Jones and Schwarzenegger screwing around on set one day.
Yes. I love Grace Jones, and just to dive even further into drag, Shea Coulee often does Grace Jones illusion and homages, and they just like lay me out on the floor. Like Grace Jones wasn't even in a good James Bond movie, and she's still one of my favorite James Bond actresses.
That's a great way to put it. Speaking of there, did you see RuPaul is going to be hosting Saturday Night Live this season? And I'm like, how is that? I did. And I'm like, how has that never happened before? That feels like something that should have happened decades ago.
I'm also shocked that Ru isn't the musical guest because he's got lots and lots of albums, and I have fully watched all of AJ and the Queen, speaking of Netflix, which is Ru's scripted Netflix show. It's wild.
I guess that's a good segue to what have you been watching and reading recently that you've been enjoying? What's been capturing your attention?
I've been wrapping up the His Dark Materials series because I never read it as a tiny human child.
Neither did I.
It's really good. I think, don't at me, I think in terms of world building and the quality of the writing, I think it's better than Harry Potter.
You're not the first person to tell me that. I know I had lots of friends who were really into the young adult books, and the people who I always thought were very smart and very intelligent were like, nah, His Dark Materials, it's where it's at. And I'm like, okay. But all I ever knew was the Golden Compass movie. I'm like, I don't know, something with polar bears and shit. I don't know.
The bears are like the best part of it. The bears are really cool. But it's much more complicated than Harry Potter, right? Harry Potter is a very easy barrier to entry, and His Dark Materials is very deeply steeped in Christian mythos. Like,
yes, that I
one
know.
One of the villains is Metatron, who's like an old-time OG Talmudic angel.
Right, like the voice of God. You are now hearing the Metatron from Dogma.
And Dog. I forgot that they were in Dogma. But so I think it's tougher. I think it's harder for kids because it's actually much more like Narnia than Harry Potter. But so I've been finishing that and really, really enjoying it. I've been reading a lot of Chuck Dixon's Birds of Prey for obvious reasons, and because Chuck Dixon is my favorite writer from the 90s. They're really good, and there's a colorist who colors the whole run, and her name is Gloria Vasquez, and she doesn't color the way I traditionally think of like that 90s DC house style. It's much more soft and muted, and it brings a really ethereal quality that I wasn't expecting to like these badass ladies kicking butt. And I've been really enjoying it, but now that I'm looking at comics more critically, I'm like, wow, the coloring is like out of control in this book. And just trying to catch all the Oscar movies, you know?
Same. I've been doing that as well.
And then last night I watched Relics, the Star Trek TNG episode in preparation for Picard.
Right.
Yeah, which is so good. And James Doohan is so almost unexpectedly delightful in that episode because he's playing a very different version of Scotty than we're used to seeing in TOS. And I thought I was like really touched by it.
Aw. Well, of all the Oscar movies you've seen, what was your favorite? What's your hot Oscar take? What should have been nominated but didn't get nominated?
I'll tell you what shouldn't have been nominated: The Irishman. That's a bunch of nonsense.
It's, I would put that on par with like The Departed, where it's like, yeah, this is not one of your best works. And I even went back and watched The Departed after I watched The Irishman. I'm like, these are about on par with each other.
Yeah, and look, award shows are always political, and I understand that, but I still find it upsetting. Like Oscar so white and Oscar so male. It's really hard to get around. Like I always feel weird when every part of the movie is nominated except the director. So I think
Little Women got fucked over in a big way.
Yeah, like Greta Gerwig should have been nominated. Awkwafina should have been nominated for The Farewell. Adam Sandler should have been nominated for Uncut Gems.
Yes, I loved that movie.
I think Lupita probably should have been nominated.
Oh, she owned that movie, and she pulled double duty.
Yeah, but I think it's too weird, whereas Get Out had a very clear political message, and it's not that Us doesn't. It's just more abstract, and Us is a more out there idea.
Indeed. And also it's horror, and the Academy hates horror and fantasy.
They do, and they hate genre. And I know everyone's like, Endgame, and like, no, Endgame did not deserve to be nominated.
I mean, I liked Endgame. Don't get me wrong.
So did I.
Yeah.
But it's not that type of movie. I haven't seen Joker's, which was a conscious choice on my part. I can't speak to whether or not Joker should be nominated.
Have you seen Taxi Driver?
I have not, but I know they're basically.
I was gonna say, if you've seen Taxi Driver, you've basically seen Joker.
Yeah. But I did like at the SAG Awards, which is the Screen Actors Guild, to the Actors Union in the United States. I liked that when Joaquin won, he gave props to Heath Ledger. I thought that was
nice,
very nice and very thoughtful. And isn't it interesting that of all the superhero movies that have come in our sort of boom, that's the role and those are the two actors who've been celebrated.
Yeah.
I do think there are other movies that should have where superhero performances or genre performances should have been nominated, but also to me the Joker and then Parasite and Bong Joon-ho should have been nominated as well.
Indeed.
But I very much feel like that's the Academy trying to be like, no, we are hip and edgy. And it's like, well, like 57% of your voters are over the age of 60. Which is not to say that your opinion is not valid, but it's not what I think of when I think of people who are hip and with it. And I'm going to say that and then be like, well, I don't know. I'm sure there's some Betty White's hip, but
indeed. Yeah, I'll tell you this. Here's one I didn't think that a hill I would get on, but after I saw the movie, I actually feel she was kind of robbed too. Jennifer Lopez for Hustler. She actually turns in a hell of a performance in that, and that movie is almost a better Goodfellas gangster movie than The Irishman was. And I'm like, yeah, why didn't she get something? She's a fucking tour de force here.
I didn't see it. But I'm sure she's wonderful, and I'll put it on my list. But I feel like for me, that movie came and went. Like, I saw the posters, and then it was out in the world. And then, I don't know, I have, like, weird feelings about Constance Wu right now.
Yeah.
And I know she's part of that. And, like, with Crazy Rich Asians 2 on the horizon, I'm kind of like, Just, look, all jobs are hard jobs. But when you have one of the coolest jobs in the world,
come on,
think before you tweet. That's all.
Again, you were mentioning Uncut Gems there too, man.
Yeah, I just saw that.
Man, I've never done coke before in my life, but I can only assume that movie captures the frenetic feeling of what it's like to be on a 24/7 coke binge.
Oh man, that movie is such a genius exercise in how to raise stakes. There was an article, I think it was Cinema Blend, but it might have been Deadline, where basically they talked to an Academy member and they said, like, we were never going to nominate Awkwafina and we were never going to nominate Adam Sandler because they're
that bit too,
yeah, which is so nonsense, because to me it's more impressive when it's someone who you don't expect, who turns out like a really moving, thoughtful, like, honestly, like, you can nominate Meryl Streep for whatever you want. I don't care anymore. Also, I saw Sophie's Choice last year and didn't think it was very good. That's my other movie hot take.
Ooh, hot.
And I know. So edgy, so cutting. Everyone's just talking about edgy.
Everyone's going to be like, what was that movie again? There's another problem with the Oscars. All the movies that get nominated, most of them in a year, like, oh yeah, did that come out?
Yeah, it's also really strange when you look back. Like, I was looking at the year that Silver Linings Playbook won everything. And to me, I'm like, in hindsight, for me, it's fairly laughable that was a movie that was celebrated. And again, if people love it, I don't mean to... I'm not like taking a dump on your opinions or just my opinions, or they're my thoughts, but yeah, man, the Oscars did a bad thing this year. They did bad.
They did. And they often do. And like, I always come back to the thing where it's like, you know what? The real tragedy of all this is we'll never give you the award for the movie you deserve it for. We'll give you like 4 years later for the one you don't deserve it for.
Also, the SAG Awards have a category for stunts, and Game of Thrones won for ensemble stunt work, and I think that is a category that absolutely needs to be brought over into the Oscars and into a more mainstream spotlight, because stunt work is so hard.
They literally risk their lives for your entertainment,
and it is so worthy of celebration, because good stunt work is like next level, out of this world, and bad stunt work is noticeable and it gets people killed sometimes. They're Deadpool. I also think there should be a category for motion capture performance, because Andy Serkis needs 12 Oscars. Yeah, and he's not the only one, but he's obviously the easiest one who comes to mind. But with more and more of that happening, and with like more and more things like de-aging happening, I think that those types of performances do deserve to be separated out from a best actor, because it's such a specific skill set.
Naturally, yeah, totally. What else? So yeah, we talked about your book, we talked about airports, we talked about Oscar hot takes. Anything else now that you have the floor and you can say whatever you want?
Oh man, Crisis on Infinite Earths. That was really interesting.
Yeah, let's talk, because you mentioned stunt work. Actually, that reminds me completely. They put out a really nice picture of all their stunt people. I
loved it.
Me too, where it's like, hey, thank you, stunt people who made all this possible. And I'm like, yeah, that is nice. Thank you. They do deserve that.
It's interesting. Jason and I on the Patreon for all of last year did like a 12-episode video doc series about Crisis on Infinite Earths, and then we talked about the show. And having like been so steeped in Crisis on Infinite Earths and then seeing the show, I don't know if that was the prime experience to have, because Wolfman and Perez for me are like peak comics. Like I would put them
for sure
on my Mount Rushmore of both writers and artists. The New Teen Titans is my everything. And I think that the more geography you have on it, right? Like you look back at the New Teen Titans and you're like, oh boy, they are saying some words that we don't say anymore. Or they're behaving in a way that we wouldn't behave anymore. But, you know, you have to take your brain into the context of, well, that was made in the 80s and it's good that we don't do that anymore. But, you know, the creators themselves are nice people. They're not problematic. They haven't been Me Too'd out of work.
Which is saying something.
Well, which is truly an accomplishment in the modern age. And I'm all for Me Tooing people out of work. If you're a bad dude, you don't get to work anymore. Goodbye. Thank you so much.
It was cute that, Wolfman actually got to show up there and they named a place after Perez.
I loved that. He was my favorite cameo. Everyone asked me about the Burt Ward cameo, which I did think was very sweet, but the Marv one, really got me. It was so interesting because I had really high hopes, because I have a newfound appreciation for Crisis on Infinite Earths, having spent so much time with it. And I've really come to appreciate the brilliance of it, which of course is all under the guise of what comics were like in 1985. So like the pacing is weird. And sometimes you're like, why are there 29 panels on this page?
Yeah.
But I really do think I think it's like art, true high art, or like it's literature, right? Like I think it transcends the medium, and I think it's very special. And I don't know if this crossover needed to be called Crisis on Infinite Earths. And I do fully understand that in the Arrowverse, we work with the characters that we have. And so it's not going to look like the comics, and that's okay. But to me, it felt much less like Crisis on Infinite Earths than did you ever see that crappy movie The Warriors of Virtue?
Yes, many times, in fact.
I definitely ruined our cassette, but it's bad. And to me, the minute they introduced the idea of the Paragons, which is not a comic book construct if people aren't familiar, I was like, oh no, this is too silly. I think there were moments of like absolute brilliance. I thought the final Arrow death was really moving. I thought Stephen Amell acted the heck out of that. I love that Sarah was there for it. Sarah, he's a good actor.
He is, and like I talked shit about him for so long. I'm like, no, okay, I gotta eat my hat on this one. You are a good actor. I hope you have a good film career. Now, look, he wasn't good in the beginning. David Ramsey, John Diggle taught him how to act. Clearly. Let's make no mistake about that. But I think he's really evolved. Like season 5 of Arrow is my favorite. Also, it's so funny. The gentleman who played Prometheus in that, Adrian Chase, kind of went from being Arrow's toxic boyfriend. He's the villain of AJ and the Queen, and he's RuPaul's toxic boyfriend, which made me laugh. Typecasting,
years and years. He's so good. He should be in more stuff. I love that Sarah was there because
she had a great arc, didn't she?
She's so good. And like Katie Lotz does that so well. And Sarah and Ollie are my favorite ship in the Arrowverse.
When she got to take her seat at the table, that warmed my heart so much. I'm like, yeah, you did earn this. For sticking around through all these shows, for sticking it out through the 2 crappy seasons of Legends of Tomorrow, and then owning it being a comedy now, and the fact that you're just as valid even though you're on the comedy show, that you get a seat at the table too.
I love Legends of Tomorrow.
I do too.
I love it so much.
Same. I hated it in the first 2 seasons, and I'm like, why am I watching this? It takes itself too seriously. It's so cheap. They don't know what to do with the time travel, but then something magical happens near the end of season 2. They say, fuck it, we're a comedy now, and then it becomes brilliant. Which
is like what I miss from Flash, because Flash in season 1 and season 2, he fought the Rainbow Rider.
It's true.
In an episode that I didn't like, and I didn't like seeing that character, but it felt like it was fully embracing being a superhero show and doing the comics, and that Grant Morrison idea that it's all valid, right? No matter how stupid it is, it's all valid. And I love that, because some of the silly things can come back and be really thoughtful and really moving. I'm so blown out. I'm sorry. The sun is so bright
That's
now.
All right.
And then after, then they did Savitar. And we also had the Thinker that season. I loved the Thinker, but I thought the Savitar stuff was just not to my taste. It wasn't what I wanted from the Flash, and it feels like
it went on for too long. It was too predictable a mystery. That's the problem with these CW shows, and it's something I hope they learn moving forward.
There's just too many of them. Also, I mean, I know we love all of them, but you can only see the same trick so many times.
There's too many. There's too many episodes a season. I think they need to adopt the comic thing of having primary antagonists and secondary antagonists, and don't be afraid to almost do the Power Rangers thing when they ran out of footage. Don't be afraid to have multiple villains a season.
I also think don't be afraid to do the English thing, like HBO very much does that, and Fleabag is one of the shows that everyone is talking about. And one of the reasons I think that those shows succeed is because they have such a short episode order. So if you can only do 6 episodes or 10 episodes or even 15 episodes, you have to be much more economical with your storytelling. Or if you can only do 5.
Again, take another page from the comics.
That's right. You have to be like really thoughtful about how you're plotting. And when you have 24 or however, God knows how many. I used to say this about Vampire Diaries, because I watched Vampire Diaries for a really, really long time, which was not a good show, but I loved it. So 24 episodes. So you'd get about 8 excellent episodes. You'd get 8 that were pretty good. You'd get 8 that were okay. You'd get 8 that were pretty bad. And then you get 8 that were like crap.
That's about the ratio. That's about how it breaks down.
That's about 50% of your episodes that are at less than a B minus. And I think that's a bummer. And when you look at shows in the 90s, like Deep Space Nine, or a lot of the Star Trek shows, they had like almost 30 episodes. And the fact that any of them were good is just wild. But I also think, just like comics in general, I think it should be a shorter episode order. And then that way, if you want to have 135 Arrowverse shows, it doesn't feel like as much work, because all the shows were renewed. We got Superman and Lois coming. We have Stargirl 2039, whatever that's going to be called. The Black Canaries, whatever. Mia. Yeah, Stargirl's coming. Like, it's so much. And
we're almost hitting critical mass, and it's like, I can understand.
I think so.
I can understand why the CW doesn't want to cut it short, because it's like, that's the cornerstone of our programming block. If we don't have that, we don't have anything. We've gone all in on superheroes.
But I also think they could take a lesson from, I can't believe I'm saying this, from DC Universe with Doom Patrol.
Yeah, I love Doom Patrol so much.
It was my favorite comic book show last year.
It's legitimately brilliant. Like, I sit and watch Doom Patrol, I'm like, this is goddamn transcendent.
And it's like thoughtful, and it's progressive. Like the Danny the Street episode, like Danny the Street is a Grant Morrison comic book thing. It's really silly. And they actually took that opportunity to say something with it and take advantage of the fact that they cast Matt Bomer, who's this like very public, very gorgeous, out man. And
to make it so thematic to Doom Patrol as well. It's like, I had a thing watching, I'm like, wow, the guys making this show, not only did they read the Doom Patrol book, they understood it.
Yes. So Doom Patrol is the best. And they had a great cameo.
They did.
I got into Titans with season 2, and it's mostly because I love that stupid kid who plays Jason Todd.
That's a bridge I have yet to cross. I watched episode 1 of Titans, and I'm like, all right, not for me.
Yeah, so if you ever want to, I recommend starting with the season 1 finale, because you know what the gig with Teen Titans is, so like nothing's going to surprise you. No. Start with the finale and then watch season 2, because it actually is like a Teen Titans show. But the kid who plays Jason Todd is the only person who's having fun. And when you meet him for the first time, he's riding a motorcycle around Wayne Manor because Bruce isn't there. And then he hits the banister and goes flying over the stairs. And I was like, this is the most perfect depiction of Jason Todd I've ever seen. I guess I watched this show now.
Okay, see, you've actually almost sold it to me better than anyone else, where it's like, it's Jason, but he's a dumbass. And I'm like,
he's such a dumbass. And
that's good. Like, that's good characterization.
There's also Brandon Thwaites, who plays Nightwing. He actually, for me, becomes Nightwing in the second season. So,
yeah.
And I don't mind having to wait, or I don't mind checking back in on a show, because Arrow, which is one of my favorite shows, even though Arrow's had lots of bad seasons, didn't really find its footing until season 2, until about 10 episodes into season 1. So
again, see, that's it. I tried multiple times to get into Arrow. It still ends up being the one CW show that I didn't watch. But then again, I'm weirdly biased, and I get that it's a problem with me because I am so in love with Green Arrow as a comic book, to where it's like, okay, everything
and it's
you do.
very much not that, yeah.
No, it isn't. I'm like, everything you do is sacrilege. You are Batman Jr. for a good chunk of your time.
But that's fair. And I really appreciate that you know what your bias is, because I think sometimes we mistake, as fans, my favorite for the best, and we mistake not to my taste or not for me to it's bad.
Oh, yeah, I see that all the time.
I didn't go and see Venom because I have never been a 15-year-old boy. So I just like it just on no level appeals to me. But a lot of people liked it, and it's getting a sequel, and God bless Andy Serkis gets to direct it. And that doesn't mean that it's any less valid than the way that I feel about the Wonder Woman movie, which, I mean, very obviously speaks to me for very obvious reasons. And that's something that I try to think about a lot. And so when I talk about stuff I don't like, a lot of times there's objectively like nothing wrong with it. It's just like, I don't like shows about bad guys, so like I don't like Breaking Bad. You know, I get that it's a huge show and it's probably deserves to be on the top 100 best shows of all time, but like you're never going to convince me to watch it.
Have you seen Ray Donovan? I think that is actually an interesting subversion of the bad guy HBO anti-hero type series.
I haven't, but I love Liev Schreiber, so if you say it's good, I will consider checking it out.
I have joked many a times, and everyone knows this, Liev Schreiber is my man crush, and that's the thing. I just wish we could be friends, me and Liev Schreiber. There's things you learn about him in that show, Ray Donovan, that he shows a kind of weakness and vulnerability that you would never see in a Walter White or a Tony Soprano. And there's a bit in the first couple episodes where you actually get to see him cry, and I'm like, oh, this is a deconstruction subversion of those shows. You thought they were just doing that thing, but no, they're actually commenting on that type of show.
I love it in a modern world that we're letting men cry more in media, and like big, strong, masculine, like traditionally masculine men, because I'm so sick of the narrative that like boys don't cry and big girls don't cry. And that's all nonsense. And I think it's very, as someone who cries a lot, I think it's very healthy to let your feelings out. So every time Stephen Amell cries a lot on Arrow. Every time that happens, I'm like, yes. And I think it actually starts with in television, I think Lost was a big part of that, because Matthew Fox is like a very good mister. So he was like on the brink of tears constantly. And I think just from like a societal perspective, like give me more men crying. I'm totally here for it. In Doom Patrol, the episode where he meets his boyfriend from the past.
Yeah. Oh, and
I
they
was
do
like,
that cover
why
of Moon
is
River.
Doom Patrol making me cry?
That was an amazing, and they do the cover of Moon River from Danny Ocean there. I'm like, God damn, this is good.
I also like to be surprised. Like I was so mad that Doom Patrol was a show that made me cry. When I first watched Star Trek Enterprise, it's an episode called Similitude that's all about Trip, who's one of my favorite characters. And he's played by a lovely actor named Connor Trinneer, who I've since become acquaintances with. And it started because I tweeted him and said, fuck you for making me cry watching Star Trek Enterprise. Because he just gives really powerful performances. And that's why genre shows are important.
Absolutely. And you know what? I don't think we're going to top that one right there, everyone. Thank you so much, Ashley, for coming and talking to me for almost an hour now as I sit and look at the clock. That time just flew by. I guess I will give the floor to you one last time. Tell them where they can find all the information for Jupiter Jet and the Lost Radio, and where they can go and where they can support it.
Thank you for having me. I know sometimes you and I have a hard time making our schedules copacetic, so I really appreciate my fellow countrymen making the time for me. If you liked anything I said here, if you think that anything I said was valuable, if you liked me and Joel chatting together, you can check out Jupiter Jet Volume 2. Yeah. I'm so good with props. Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio by going to jupiterjetcomic.com. That link will take you directly to the Kickstarter campaign. It's super easy to find. We have really, really incredible rewards. If you would like to talk to me like Joel did, we have a Skype reward level, so we could do this too sometime. You can also follow the campaign on Twitter at JupiterJetComic. And you can follow me everywhere at Ashley V. Robinson. The V is very important. I don't want to fight Ashley Robinson, the WNBA player, for SEO.
There you go. So again, thank you so much, Ashley, for joining us. I will try and link all of that down in the description below. That'll just about do it for me and another interview. Thank you so much for watching the Comic Multiverse. Be sure to like, subscribe, favorite, share, do all that social media hubbaloo. And hey, if you're a patron, you'll actually get to listen to this video first before anyone else. I know, because we're recording this on Thursday, and the live show with Matt doesn't happen until Sunday. So
time travel.
Totally. And again, you know, I'll probably have done an hour with Matt, and we've done an hour here. So you guys, you basically got a double length show this week, everyone. So, you know, you're more than welcome, and we will be back again next week, everyone. Until then, I've been Joel. Bye-bye.